All right.
So Anna must be on both YouTube and Facebook because she says, "Oh, good." She wouldn't be saying that if she was just on Facebook.
Well, we just started back on. All right. What's going on, everybody, on YouTube?
It says there's 0 watching, but there's not. There's people in the chat, so that's virtually impossible.
I don't know if you can hear us.
Oh, she said, "Welcome back."
Let us know if you can hear us.
Yeah. One of 144p.
You can hear us. Okay.
Iron XXB. I said 144p. Yo, that's like high def right there. Not.
Right. But the video is trash.
The video is straight garbage.
Let's refresh it and see what's going on.
Yo, I look so pixelated, man.
Yeah, man, the video is straight trash. Okay, all right, it got better. All right, are we echoing? Is there any problem with the audio? I don't know how this happened, man. I really don't. So, somebody messed with the software.
God.
So so the problem was that this was on that. And I saw that earlier today, man, and I was like, that looks strange. But I didn't make any. But I know I didn't change it.
Some of these applications, man, you shut them down, and maybe they have some sort of auto.
No echo, all good. Okay. All right. Man, Facebook stayed with us too. That's what's up, man. All right, so YouTube, thank you for being here. Thank you for helping us bide the time. Well, not bide the time, helping us go through the technical difficulties and fix them. This is Let the Madness Begin, LTMB Live. Thank you for being here again. This is the Tuesday edition. No, my bad. I'm all messed up.
See, man,
I'm all messed up now. See, I don't know what's gonna happen tonight. I don't even know what's gonna happen tonight.
See,
now, man.
It's got you shook now, man.
I don't even know what's gonna happen.
Technical difficulties got you shook, bro.
All right. It's Thursday, 8 p.m. Man, I just came from practice too, man.
Yeah, see, and you have to deal with a bunch of 6-year-olds, 6 or 7-year-olds.
Yo, and I was actually like dribbling today. Oh. And I can actually dribble way better than I thought I could. I haven't picked up a basketball in many months, but I can actually dribble way better than I thought I could, man. But I'm still tired though. But anyway, appreciate everybody here. We have lots to talk about tonight. It's already 8:22, so we'll be on to about midnight or so.
I know, right?
Something like that. So let's just go into it. All right, I'm sure more people will join us as the minutes go by. We probably lost some people because of all those technical difficulties.
I knew what it was. It's probably Deep State. That's who it was.
Yeah, man. Oh, don't hate on the skills, man. See, y'all don't understand. See, don't hate on the basketball skills, man. Y'all see, you don't understand. See, you don't know. They can't even begin to understand.
Nah, man.
You don't understand, man.
They don't want none of this right here.
You don't want none of that. But anyway, let's get to it. So on Tuesday, there was a surprising victory. Progressive victory. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won in New York's 14th congressional district, and she beat the 10-term Congressman Joe Crowley, who had not been challenged in 14 years in the Democratic primary. And like I said, he's a 10-term congressman. He's been serving ever since 1999. And she pulled off the upset. Not only did she win, she accumulated more than 57% of the vote.
He was like the 4th ranking House Democratic leadership. He was the 4th ranking.
That's right. He was somebody that was looked at as that was somebody that was gonna succeed Nancy Pelosi in leadership. And he got taken down.
According to the Palmer report. He claims that progressives fucked up, and
really,
and yeah, because he was supposed to, I guess, insert progressive values into the mainstream Democratic establishment. He was a sleeper. He was trying to take down Pelosi and the establishment Democrats from the inside.
We talking about Crowley?
Crowley, yes.
Oh, okay.
And the progressives fucked up big time. We missed our chance for Crowley. He was just sneaking on the Democratic establishment. He was sneaking.
And we didn't know about it.
And we didn't know about it.
But that doesn't matter since we got an undeniable progressive.
Undeniable progressive.
So either he was a sleeper or not, we still got a progressive. So
he was an outsider according to him. An outsider who raised 10 times as much money. A Democrat who raised 10 times as much money as the underdog. But
using
he was
that political machine.
He was a political machine, but he was the underdog, and he was going to take the Democratic Party in a different direction from the inside.
Please, man. But anyway, this is a little bit of video of Ocasio-Cortez in the moments right after she had learned that she had won the primary.
She's right here. I can't let you. She's looking at herself on television right now. How are you feeling? Can you put it into words? No. I cannot put this into words. All right, your supporters here are really excited for you. This is a grassroots campaign. Can you believe the numbers that you're seeing right now?
I cannot believe these numbers right now, but I do know that every single person here has worked their butt off to change the future of the Bronx and Queens. That's what I know. That's what I know. And that this victory belongs to every single grassroots organizer, every working parent, every mom, every member of the LGBTQ community. Every single person is responsible for this.
So that's raw emotion. That's somebody that does not come from the political class. That's somebody that's not working under the political machine. That's somebody that, for all intents and purposes, seems like she is a woman of the people.
Wasn't she just working like at a coffee shop?
She was a bartender.
She was a bartender.
bartender. Like last year this time, I believe, yeah, she was a bartender. And now she is on the track to become the youngest woman ever elected to Congress, to the U.S. Congress. She's 28 years old. It's crazy. She labels herself as a democratic socialist, something that came to prominence. That's like a term that came to prominence when
the state of California has become a battleground.
Dog.
See, we got problems, man.
Dog.
There's
like
my guy, cell phone technical difficulties.
There's like literally nothing.
But anyway, but yeah, so Ocasio-Cortez describes herself as a democratic socialist, something that came to prominence when Bernie Sanders was running for political office. Well, not political office, when he was running for presidential office in 2016. Again, she is a progressive. She has a very progressive platform. She championed Medicare for all, tuition-free college, criminal justice reform. She wants to abolish ICE. She wants to in private prisons. She wants to enact the $15 federal minimum wage, paid child and sick leave. All of it, like I said, you go down the list. This is somebody that if you were backing Bernie Sanders in 2016,
which she was,
she was actually a volunteer for his campaign. But if you backed him in 2016, and you felt like, yeah, this is the way we need to go. And I think there was a lot of us too that thought the things that he was saying really wasn't as progressive as he really should have been in the campaign. There was a lot of people that felt that. I felt like that.
Oh, so are you suggesting that kind of she ran a campaign and put everything out there without any shame?
Everything.
So you kind of saying that, she ran a campaign that was almost further to the left.
It was.
Than Bernie Sanders ran his presidential campaign.
It was. So that she was able to do that. And I know, there's going to be a lot of detractors probably that say this is New York City. This is New York in general. It's a very progressive state. Which is not really true, but the city is a liberal state.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a progressive state.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Where on the spectrum are they? You can say liberal, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're progressive.
Yeah, exactly. It's a major win, especially because Joe Crowley was the incumbent. And again, he hasn't been challenged in 14 years. And the first time that he does, he gets taken out by somebody with these radical ideas that has never been in politics before. In another statement, she said, working class Americans want a clear champion, and there is nothing radical about moral clarity in 2018. So I'm all behind her. You know, I noticed her campaign some months ago, and I was all behind her then. And she, of course, she has the general election in November, and she's going to go up against Republican Anthony Pappas. It doesn't appear that it's going to be a problem because the 14th district is very blue, as is the whole of New York City. I believe Democrats outnumber Republicans 7-1 in the city. So it's not something that should be looked at as a problem. It seems very likely, very probable that she will become the youngest woman ever elected to Congress.
I'm wondering what that's going to do to kind of, I guess, Crowley's, I guess, projected, position within Democratic leadership. You know what I'm saying? What is that going to do?
I don't know. Because if the Democrats do take back the House in November, I've seen some, I guess, some people have commented that Pelosi might face a pretty tough time getting the leadership back. Like there might not be enough support for her. So that's something like, you know, if Crowley was there, I think people
that was that was the backup plan.
That was the backup. So now, if they do retake it,
you know what? That's probably why she was so bitter, because she said, you know, these elections, you know, weren't that significant. They didn't really mean anything. These progressive victories didn't mean anything. Cortez's, yeah. Or your boy Ben Jealous.
Yep, exactly. I got a quote for her about the Joe Crowley thing. She said, the fact that in a very progressive district in New York, it went more progressive than, well, Joe Crowley is a progressive, but more to the left than Joe Crowley is about that district. It is not to be viewed as something that stands for everything else.
So
she's tempering
what's your interpretation?
She's playing that same establishment Democrat role. Like, hey, I'm not. There's no way I'm gonna be quoted in the media saying that, yeah, like progressivism is taking off. She describes herself as a progressive.
You just said it right there.
Yeah, you
just said it right there. I guess juxtaposed next to somebody who is a progressive, it kind of shows her for who she is. I mean, we already know who she is. Yeah. We already know who she was. Yeah. But I guess when you put her next to actual progressives, then it puts her in a position to defend herself.
Right.
You know what I'm
saying?
And
others. And everybody else.
And everybody else who's in the same boat as she is.
Yep. So that's why, yeah, there's no way she's gonna.
She's like, don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, don't pay attention to them because you know, hey, like we're still progressive. Like, pay attention to us. Keep paying attention to us because we're progressive too. I mean, they're okay, but you know what I'm saying, we're
her progressive. She wants to make sure like whatever their progressivism is, they want that to continuously win. They don't want like real stuff like
grassroots.
Yeah, they don't want that to win. And see, look, you know, I'm not even gonna, like I said, I'm very happy. I'm very excited to see Ocasio-Cortez win this primary, and like I said, it looks like she's gonna win in November as well. And it's good to have somebody in Congress like her, and we do need more. Because,
like, as for the most part, Bernie Sanders is getting old.
Yeah, he is.
I think that's something that people kind of don't want to face. Bernie Sanders getting old.
Yeah.
Although he has been a good voice in Congress for God knows how long, many years.
But like I said, we need more like that. So it's
more
good to have
and younger.
Yeah. So it's good to have somebody like her that's entering Congress. It's just like I'm not gonna say like, oh, I mean, I'm not gonna say that this is more than what it is. It's just one progressive that's going to be in Congress. There are others, but like we need way more than what we're seeing. And I know a lot of people feel like progress can't come through the Democratic Party. We have said the same thing. Like, we can't envision a time where the Democratic Party is actually reformed. Can't see it because it's not on the horizon. We see all these small victories, and they are meaningful, but they're meaningful just because of, I guess, who they beat, what they represent, but they don't stand for the majority that's in Congress. So, like I said, I still can't see a time when the Democratic Party is going to actually represent all that we want it to represent, but I'm not going to poo-poo this victory either.
And there has to be something there that kind of serves as a visual contrast to what they represent as well. I think that's a part of it. So, we may not be able to celebrate, vicariously because these victories are very, very tiny, but they do have significance and meaning. And like you said, who are they beating? Who are they taking down? Who are they taking down? And this is a perfect example of, a grassroots candidate taking somebody down that has been a figure and a leader within the Democratic Party. So
for a long time.
So maybe this is signs for things to come.
Hopefully it will. That's the thing. Hopefully it will. Again, we're seeing spot victories, in various places across the country. We need to see more before we can actually see like light at the end of that tunnel. So I'm all for it. In other news, and on Tuesday, Mitt Romney in Utah, he won his primary by a very, very wide margin. So he's on his way to becoming the next senator in Utah. Henry McMaster here in South Carolina, he won his primary.
Yeah, we knew that was happening.
Yeah, Trump came here to stump for him, so of course, he won.
I don't think he really needed it though.
No, he didn't need it. I don't think he needed it.
McMaster has always clobbered the competition way before Trump became president. So.
Yeah. And then in this second district, Sean Kerrigan beat Annabelle Robertson. Both of them were self-described. Well, can't say that because Kerrigan did describe himself as a moderate Democrat, even though his platform was progressive.
It's weird how he described himself as a moderate Democrat, even though his platform was to the left of his opponents, who described herself as a progressive. Yeah. Actual progressive.
Again, it might be just political positioning because this is South Carolina, a very red burgundy, deep burgundy state.
Burgundy, like blood burgundy.
Yeah, so he's going to be going up against Joe Wilson. That same old guy that what do you say? You lie to President Barack Obama
on the floor.
Yeah. So and he's been in Congress for a very long time. So to oust him, maybe he's looking at it that you can't be progressive, or at least you can't say you're progressive.
You can't look like you are.
Yeah. I don't know. But all that really matters to me, I don't care what he calls himself. All that matters to me is what his platform is, and his platform is progressive, so it doesn't matter to me. Anyway, let's move on. Allison Edel, or Permit Patty. You remember that young lady? Permit Patty?
Yes, yeah. She's Barbecue Becky 2.0.
Yeah.
Or I'm saying the next level up. She tried to outdo her.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Tried to.
She tried to. It wasn't as long of a video, so I don't think the impact was as much.
And it wasn't
Barbecue
because she wasn't like. What?
Yeah.
She wasn't crying at the end.
She wasn't crying.
But one thing that's different with her is that she actually made some media appearances. Barbecue Becky didn't. So there's some different things to
Barbecue Becky was just gone. She's a ghost. Yeah. But yeah, she did make some media. She actually was interviewed by the media. And she said it wasn't racism or anything like that, blah, 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 whatever. But this is the lady that, was calling the police on the 8-year-old black girl.
Like somehow, like
bottled water.
As long as it wasn't racist, there was no problem. Like you can throw that out and there was so many problems with it. Who cares if it was racist or not? Because obviously there was some sort of.
It was wrong.
Over-exaggerating actions on her part.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, in the face of all of this controversy and backlash, all this outrage because of what she did, and it was captured on video, there were many businesses that were cutting their ties, their business relationships with her business, which is Treatwell, medical marijuana business that it provides like tinctures to dogs, pets, even human beings, I believe, but not the products that like get you high. It's just to, you know, treat whatever conditions or whatever like that. But anyway, many businesses, at least 6 of them, cut their ties. And so after that was done, she stepped down from her role as CEO of the company that she founded. So she's still with business. She's, you know, it's not like she's got fired or, you know, just completely cut her own ties to her own business. No, she just stepped down from like being the face of the organization. And in the statement, the spokesperson, Cynthia Gonzalez, said, "This decision, while not an easy one, is in the best interest of their patients. It is Ms. Edo's belief that Treatwell, its employees, and patients should not have to suffer because of a situation that occurred in an escalated moment, and she regrets her part and is remorseful." So, tears for Ms. Edo.
And it seems like the company was just making a PR move. Like, we're still going to retain her as, you know,
she's still going to be paid. She's
still
exactly
there. Like an employee as a leader, but she just doesn't have the same position, and we're not going to use her image to promote the business because it's going to affect the business. Right. So at most, Miss Edo only suffers maybe a small loss, a loss in notoriety involving her own company, but that's about it.
I wonder in a few years or so, you know, she rises up, takes over again.
Because, I mean, it's such a flash in the pan issue,
right.
Flash in the pan moment that I doubt people will even recognize.
True.
You know, people are probably just going to forget about it.
This is her 15 minutes of infamy.
Yeah. 15 minutes of fame. Or, like you said, infamy.
All right. All right, let's keep going. All right, so now there's been an update in the Antwon Rose II situation. Antwon Rose II was killed just recently by an officer, Officer Michael Rosfeld, who shot him in the back. And Antwon Rose was 17 years old. He was in a vehicle, and he ran from the vehicle. Him and another occupant ran from the vehicle, and Officer Rosfeld seems almost immediately, as you know, what was shown on that video. Seems as soon as they ran from the vehicle, he shot. He fired 3 times. All 3 bullets hit Antwon Rose, and he died a short time later. So there has been an update. Officer Michael Rosfeld has been charged with criminal homicide. District Attorney Stephen Sapala Jr. said during the news conference, quote, "You can't take somebody's life under these circumstances." And hold on. We got some video from that too.
Antwon Rose was hit 3 times. He was hit in the side of the face, in the cheek. The bullet exits through the nasal cavity. He's also hit in the right elbow from the rear. That's a through and through wound. He's hit in the mid-back, and that slug was recovered in his chest. That's the fatal shot. As I said before, that 9mm slug matches Rosfeld's service weapon. And as I said before, there's no weapon that would have created a risk to Officer Rosfeld. Based on that evidence, I find that Rosfeld's actions were intentional, and they certainly brought about the result that he was looking to accomplish. He was not acting to prevent death or serious bodily injury. It's my position that he is not entitled to a justification charge to a jury as a defense, inasmuch as under Pennsylvania law, if you are effectuating an arrest, you have to show the person to be arrested has committed a forcible felony. As I said already, Antwon Rose didn't do anything in North Braddock other than be in that vehicle. And you have to possess a weapon. Neither of those young men were in possession of a weapon. Or you have to otherwise indicate that somebody is in a position to take human life, and that is not the case here.
So, Rosfeld he didn't meet any of those, I guess, stated requirements as far as the use of force he chose to use towards Antwon Rose II.
Correct. That's what the district attorney said. And the district attorney, I mean, this was a pretty, it was about a half hour or so press conference. And he stated at least a few times that Antwon Rose did not do anything that should have warranted gunfire at him. He was not in possession of a gun. He did not shoot any weapons. There was no reason. He did not make any threatening movements. Nothing.
So, again, they were able to determine all of these things, the facts behind how Rosfeld engaged Antwon Rose. They were able to determine that just by statements by Rosfeld and a video that was put on Facebook.
So,
but they didn't have body cams.
Right, they didn't have any body cams. Now, there's another video. There's some surveillance video that we're gonna put up in just a few seconds. But before that, so the other person that was in the vehicle that fled from the scene is a 17-year-old named Zawan Hester. So he is the guy that fled. He was the one in the darker colored shirt, in the black shirt, I believe. Antwon Rose had like a light colored shirt on. I think it was described as white, but it was like light gray, something like that, light silver, something like that. But anyway, he said, or Zapala Jr., the district attorney, said during his press conference that Antwon Rose was not in the possession of a gun, and that he didn't do any of the shooting. He did say that it was Hester that did do the shooting. So Hester was taken into custody on Monday night on an unrelated charge. Because of some other criminal affair that he was going through, he had a ankle bracelet on. He cut that off. So late Monday night, they apprehended him. They took him into custody. On Wednesday, they charged him with attempted homicide, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, attempted homicide.
TJ asked a good question. He asked, has the officer made a statement yet?
Yes, the officer has made a statement.
Yeah.
So, yeah, before we show that video too. So the officer's statements were contradictory. So at first, I believe Officer Rosfeld said that he saw Antwon Rose, he saw something in Antwon Rose's hand, and he turned his hand towards Officer Rosfeld. So that's when he shot him. Then in a later statement, because you know how investigators are, they try to catch you in a lie. They ask you to repeat your story many times. So in a later statement, asking virtually the same question, maybe in a different way, he said that he did not see a gun in Antwon Rose's hand. So based on that, based on his statements, based on the video from the person that was actually recording the crime, and based on surveillance footage, all of that together, they came away with charging him with criminal homicide. So let's show you the surveillance video, and this is about the drive-by shooting. So there was surveillance video on the street corner, and you're able to see their car, the car that Antwon Rose was in. You're able to see that car. It's like a beige car, I believe, and it's the second car. So just keep an eye out for the second car, and you'll see. You'll see what happens. So right there, Antwon Rose is in the front seat. Hester is in the back seat. So you can see, looks like a gun, and you can see it actually looks like fire. And he's shooting, right over there towards the man in the red shirt. The guy in the red shirt is actually not the one that they are intending on shooting. Not they. Let me not say they. Hester was trying to shoot somebody else. The man in the red shirt was not connected to this at all, but he took out a gun since gunfire was coming towards him. He took out a gun and started shooting back. So There it is.
So basically, the officer laid the groundwork for his own eventual arrest and charges against him because he his stories didn't line up.
That's right.
First of all, like, let's just say he stuck with his original story. Still doesn't make sense. Somebody doesn't run away, and while they're running, without facing you, point a gun behind them in some kind of way. That usually doesn't happen. So even if he stuck with that story, it still doesn't make sense.
You know what would make sense?
What?
You know when you run, you know how you like that?
Oh, like when you're running, your arms go like this.
Yeah.
So
did he see a left hand back like this? I would assume it's his left hand. It could be his right hand too, but whatever the case, you would see a hand coming backwards, but still, whoever saw the video, you saw how instantaneous it was that Officer Rosfeld shot. There's no way that he perceived a threat in that split second.
And I think if you just if we're just looking at this for what it is and just putting everything in perspective and why people are upset about it, like, Antwon does not have to be like the model citizen or perfect stand-up guy in order to be afforded his day in court, because police officers aren't the judge, jury, and in this case executioner.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Their job is to apprehend, and when somebody is I guess behaving in a way where they don't want to be apprehended, their job is still not to kill that person. They have to, I guess, employ certain tactics to see that person is apprehended. It may involve running, it may involve a taser, it may involve help from other officers, but that's usually the last resort, and especially if someone's running away and not a threat. And based on what the district attorney said when he laid out the requirements for an officer must have to shoot, it was not fulfilled in this case. So
officers have a difficult job. I don't think anybody that just looks reasonably at life can discount that. They have a very difficult job. They have a very dangerous job. It's not made for everybody. Everybody is not cut out for that line of work. I don't think I'm cut out for that line of work. That's why I never went into the profession. I don't think it's for me. So we understand that, but we understand that people go into that profession. So when you do, you're going to be held accountable for your actions because you carry an instrument that can hand out death. When you do something wrong, you got to pay for that. So Officer Rosfeld, he made a bad choice. He made a really bad choice, and he took somebody's life. Like Mike said, it doesn't matter if Antwon Rose is your model citizen. Doesn't matter if he was guilty and he actually did shoot the weapon in the car. He didn't, but it doesn't matter if he did. It's Officer Rosfeld's duty to apprehend him, not just to dish out the death penalty.
One other thing about this case that we probably need to mention is he's already been arraigned.
Yes, he has been arraigned.
He has been arraigned.
Yeah, let's talk about that arraignment. Let's talk about that arraignment. So yeah, he was charged with criminal homicide, and at this point we don't know exactly what the charge is because criminal homicide could mean a few different things. Yeah. So we don't know what the exact charge is. Is it a manslaughter charge? Is it voluntary manslaughter? Is it a murder charge? I don't think anybody knows.
It's still a
charge,
but it's a homicide case.
Yeah, it's
so
a homicide
regardless
case.
of what kind of charge it is a homicide case.
Correct.
And so
now when people get arraigned on homicide charges, there's usually a pretty substantive bail or bond situation.
And if it's not a significant amount of bond, in the state of Pennsylvania specifically, the Constitution says if a person is charged with a crime where the max sentence is life, they're not entitled to bond.
Yes. Now, we bring that up because Officer Michael Rosfeld, he got bond.
Unsecured bond.
$250,000 unsecured bond that he didn't have to pony up any money for. He's free. So the presiding judge, it was a senior district judge, Regis Welsh, that actually set this unsecured bond. And the prosecution objected. I don't believe they filed an official objection to it or an official appeal to it at that point, but they did make some statements saying that no, we totally disagree with that result. No, he should not be free on an unsecured bond. And so the media did talk to Judge Welsh, and his response was, quote, "I make my decision on bond based on circumstances, based on prior record, and based on the possibility or probability that a defendant might flee. In this case, there was no question in my mind. The defendant was not a flight risk."
Yeah, and he was also asked whether he has ever issued an unsecured bond in a homicide case before.
What was that answer?
His answer was, I could not recall doing so in 43 years as a judge.
I'm going to take that as a no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that as a no. He also said, "I'm not going to defend myself to anyone except to God and the present judge or the president judge. I'm very comfortable with what I did. If either side doesn't like it, they know what to do." Oh,
you know what? He seems
okay.
He seems a bit hyper defensive.
Oh,
he seems a bit hyper defensive, and he's obviously not comfortable with the decision he made. Because I think he knows that it was a spurious decision. Because if he was comfortable with what he did, he would not have to bring God into it. You know what I'm saying? Like as the ultimate universal deflection. You know what I'm saying? That the entity that no one else can question, nobody can question. That's why he put God in there, because he does feel some kind of way about his decision. But do court decisions have anything to do with God in the first place, Will?
Nope, not one bit. You think if it was somebody like, we don't live in Pittsburgh, but you think if it was somebody like me or Mike, any one of you think we would have got an unsecured bond? Now, I think we're upstanding members of our community. We don't have any charges.
Speak for yourself.
But no, I'm saying, we don't have any charges. We we got nothing. You really think they would have let us go with the unsecured bond?
Especially
no, it was preferential treatment.
Based on what type of case it was when you're shooting somebody in the back.
It's a homicide
regardless
case.
of whether he was wearing a uniform or not. It was still a homicide case. So just saying.
But anyway, so the president judge tried to I guess
smooth things over.
Smooth it over a little bit. He didn't set a secured bond or apply bail to the to Officer Rosfeld, but he did modify the conditions. He added an order of electronic home monitoring,
which still usually only happens on lesser charges.
Yeah, it's pretty cozy. It's pretty cozy for Officer Rosfeld.
He was trying to do what he could not to completely undermine, what the judge under him did. I see what he was trying to do. He was trying to kind of.
He saw the wrong.
He saw the wrong, but he didn't want to publicly indict his own judge.
Embarrass him, really.
Embarrass his own judge. Dog, bringing God into it, dog? You serve the people, not God. And you serve the people in regard to justice and not God.
If they don't like it, they know what they can do.
See, like I said, he's being uber defensive.
But anyway, so I'm glad that the charges are here. This was I believe the spokesperson for the district attorney said that they were waiting until after the funeral for Antwon Rose. They didn't, I don't know. I guess they didn't want to kind of interfere with that. They wanted to bring the charges after that. So, that's what they did. I'm not going to, indict them for that, criticize them for that. I don't think.
No.
It's pretty soon afterwards. And there is an investigation that you have to go through. So it was pretty soon after the event.
Man, it was sooner than I thought.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this.
Because they drag their heels. Yeah. Most of the time they do drag their heels. So, this is, and I know a lot of people are saying that, hey, don't get too excited because most of the time officers do get away with it. Either grand juries don't indict them, or even when it gets to the actual trial, juries don't actually convict them. So I understand that, but if we are going to get to a place where these officers are convicted, this is the first step. We got to get here, and a lot of times we don't even get to this point.
Yeah, to this point this quickly. Because this just happened. And
we just talked about this last week, man.
And I think two main factors probably contributed to the expeditious charging of Rosfeld, whatever, however you pronounce his name, is that the social unrest, and then his story not adding up, and his contradictory statements.
That's right. So again, it's good news. Like I said, I view this as a very comparable case to Walter Scott that was gunned down, shot in the back here, North Charleston, South Carolina. I view it it's very comparable. And that officer is serving a sentence of 20 years. I expect no less from Michael Rosfeld.
Different state, but it still kind of sets a precedent.
It does. Shot in the back. So that's where we're going to leave it, and we're just going to keep, monitoring it. And I'm sure the actual trial is going to be next year, probably something like that. These things take a long time to actually culminate and actually get to the end of it. So it's just something that we'll have to keep our eyes on. So with that, we're going to get out of here, Facebook. We're going to just continue the rest of the show on YouTube. We're already at 9 o'clock. Look at that, man.
Man, that's crazy. We're going to be until 1 o'clock, bro.
I'm saying, man.
It's going to be late Thursday, y'all.
Because we still got a lot to get to, man.
Y'all better start sipping on some coffee.
I know, right?
Shoot, because we good.
I know, we're good right now.
So
right
now.
Now.
If it start getting too hot in here because we got lights.
Yeah, I know, man.
Then we're going to have to shut it down.
Some more bottles of water.
We're going to shut it down.
All right, we appreciate you on Facebook. Just click that link in the description, and you'll be taken to the rest of the show. All right, so come join us, and we'll see you over there.
All right, now we coming home to our main chick, YouTube. Sorry, my bad. All right.
Okay. So you know what? We're gonna stay connected to this. We're going to stay connected to this Antwon Rose issue. It's not really about the case per se, but in an extension of it. It's kind of related.
Yeah, because there have been many responses to the case, most of which have been public response, social unrest, but there are other responses too.
And we have to get to those other responses. So Karen Piccone is the mayor of Arnold, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So recently she sparked some controversy, some understandable outrage when she urged officers to use water cannons on protesters. So it was on Facebook. She posted an iconic image of black people in Alabama being pummeled with water cannons in 1963. So this is the photo. I'm sure many people have seen this before. I mean, there's kind of there's a few different ones, but it shows the same situation. Like the I guess the movements of the bodies are in different places, but it shows the same thing. These black people being doused, just shot with these water cannons back in the civil rights period time. So this is what she said. She included the message: "I'm posting this so the authorities everywhere sees this. Bring the hoses." She also said they don't care about jobs for PGH, Pittsburgh. None of them work now. That's how they can do this at 7 a.m. Very sad.
It was I think there was another image or some other footage that was that was more modern, that I guess she commented on as well. But It doesn't matter. Like, regardless of what photos or footage she co-signed, there is like deep historical significance in this country in regard to protesters being sprayed by water hoses.
And just to be clear, the protesters were they have been protesting the killing of Antwon Rose.
Okay, yeah.
Just to be clear, and that's who she says that officers should bring the water cannons on.
Yeah, I mean, again, she's 15, 20, 25 years older than we are, so she should be very aware of that significance.
She
that
remembers
historical
that time.
She was most likely there or close to it. She may not be just as old as our parents, but she's probably around that age. So she is completely aware of kind of what kind of I guess a contextual narrative she's building by advocating that these protesters be sprayed with water hoses. But I do think it's interesting that she brings up these people being out here at 7 a.m. and, you know, they don't have kind of suggesting that they don't work.
None of them work now.
None of them
That's how
work
they
now.
can do this at 7 a.m.
But see,
Very sad.
logically, she knows that everyone doesn't have 9-to-5 jobs. Logically, she knows that. She knows that people go to work at different times. Logically, she knows that people can protest around their work schedule. But we know she is not meaning to be logical.
Oh, Mike, what do you? Come on, man. Where you going with this, man? Come on.
Well, that's
that's
like a rhetorical device. It's a rhetorical device meant to mask a racist attitude in like benign language. She might as well have just said like, these lazy niggers don't work.
Yep.
That's what she might as well have said that.
She just said it she said it in coded language.
Oh, she coded it. She coded it big time. But I mean, and to be honest, the sad part is I don't think it's totally like to mask it from the public. I think it's actually, she probably masks it from herself as well. It's more like she's probably diluting herself in benign language so she doesn't have to use more blatant racist language. This is more for herself and not just for us, you know, not for the public.
Who does the end of that statement sound like? That's how they can do this at 7 a.m. Very sad. Who does that sound like?
That when you say very sad. Yeah.
That sounds like our fearless president, doesn't it?
That's like an exclamation mark. That's not a word. That's an exclamation mark in the form of a word. And yeah, it sounds just like Donald Trump.
And you know, and this mayor too, Piccone, she's a Democrat.
Yeah.
She's a Democrat. But anyway, you know what happens when you know, these words come out in the media. Like your Facebook posts get publicized. There's a lot of outrage.
People take screen caps of it and spread it around. Just put all your business out.
You know what happens, right?
Yeah. What? She started doing a Roger Rabbit? That's a Roger Rabbit? Backpedaling. Oh, like a defensive back. Like a DB. Okay, like a DB. Okay.
Yeah. So there were actually two moments of the backpedaling. So she was actually, I guess a reporter called the office for a comment, and she tried to play games. She said that she had no comment, right? And then she switced to the third person and said the mayor didn't post these. That junk baffled me, man, when she says the mayor. I'm like, well, you're the mayor. Right? But that was step one, all right? So step two is the actual apology, in which she said, I love this community. I would do anything for the people here. I don't take my position as mayor lightly and deeply regret the comments I made on Facebook. It was never my intention to offend anyone. And for those who I offended, I am sincerely sorry. So as I read this, like what I see really is like, I love this community. Well, at least the white people in this community. I would do anything for the people here. I would do anything for the white people here. But for the black people, I'm coming for your civil rights. That's what I see.
Well, that policy really doesn't mean anything to me, and it's not really about people being offended, because like I don't have to be offended, meaning like my feelings are hurt, like, or I feel some type of way. I'm just looking at like you for what you said or for your behavior, and I'm responding to that. It has nothing to do with people being offended. If people are offended, that's on them, and they can, you know, I guess offer their rebuttal to what you said and what you posted. But
you didn't like stub my toe.
Exactly.
You didn't cut me off in traffic. No, I mean, like, the words that you shared were a reflection of how you think,
of how, who she is.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That's what we're concerned about.
You know what? And like, I think that's what makes people like her in positions of power, these like closet bigots that don't know they're in the closet, more dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Because
that's assuming she doesn't know, though.
I don't know if she knows. Like when somebody speaks in third person, you know there's some sort of like.
I don't know, man.
I mean, because like,
that's the funny part of it.
That's what I'm saying. Because I think some of it is just they're not conscious of it. But unfortunately, her bigotry and prejudice will definitely skew her perception of what justice looks like. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's why when people like her are in power, who are not completely cognizant of their attitude and their beliefs,
right? How could they truly represent everybody in the community? And I believe in that community in Arnold, I think it has a population of 5,000, and 26% of the population is black, I believe. So yeah, it's the majority of the population is white. That's how a lot of populations go. That's how a lot of communities are. But you still have to address the fact that it's not all white. You do have people of color in your community, so you do have to represent them as well. I don't think she wants.
But I think in these moments kind of bring light to how efficient they can be at that job in doing that. You see what I'm saying?
There's no way she could be effective.
To me, there's no way, because this is a perfect display of how like somebody, like, I guess, delivering like their racist attitude in an envelope of benign language to kind of offer a cover for it so they can't be criticized. But to me, it's obvious. You know what I'm saying?
And one more thing. Think about the reaction, the violent reaction that she had to protesters. Were they rioters? No. These people were protesting somebody being unjustly killed by law enforcement. They have every right to protest. Every right, per the Constitution, correct? So they're not being violent. Why do you suggest violence is thrown towards them?
Exactly, and again, regardless of how one feels about this case, like either way, shouldn't that be their right? Like it'll have been good for her to say, you know, we may have I may have my difference of opinion with these people, but they have a right to do so, and then leave it alone. Even if she said, I disagree with them, but I support their right, it would have come off a lot different. She could have disagreed with them up and down, left and right. She said, I don't agree with their protest, but they have a right to do it. So it would have came off a lot differently.
She's coming for civil rights.
She's coming for them. She's coming for them. That's what she was coming for. Like we said, people being sprayed, not just people, protesters being sprayed with water hoses, that has historical reference, historical significance. So yeah, that's kind of a signal to me.
All right, let's move on to, there's another case that is very similar to this. We'll talk about this for a few moments. A Georgia police officer has been arrested and charged with voluntary manslaughter. Officer Zachariah Presley, who worked at the Kingsland Police Department, is accused of shooting and killing a 25-year-old black man named Anthony Marcel Green. This was on June 21st, so just a few days ago, just a week ago. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation said Officer Presley was following Green's vehicle for some reason that hasn't been revealed yet, I don't believe. They came to an intersection, and Green and another occupant of the vehicle that he was in got out and ran. So officers pursued them on foot. It's actually been reported that they pursued Green, who I believe was the driver. So there was a brief altercation between Officer Presley and Green, at which point after that, Green took off running again. So at some point after that, shortly after that, Officer Presley shot at him while he was fleeing, while he was running away. So presumably this is another case of a black man, running away, and it seems that he was shot in the back. Now, we don't have the body cam. There is body cam footage. There is dash cam footage as well. It has not been released yet. The GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, said that they are reviewing it and they're trying to enhance the footage to get a clear sense of what happened. But I believe they are going to release that footage. And so soon we will be able to assess that as well. But Officer Presley, he was fired on Wednesday, and he was charged on the same day as well. So he is facing a maximum of 20 years in prison.
Another swift charge.
Yeah, very swift.
Swift charge. And why do you think that is? It's because he used excessive force on a fleeing suspect, no different than Rosfeld did.
It's crazy that another case like this happens.
Well, like what do you think?
So soon.
What do you think the mentality has to be for somebody to be, I guess, have the mindset to want to shoot somebody who is running away? Like, okay, if their job is to apprehend, all right, they are the long arm of the law. Their job is they're on the ground. Their job is to apprehend and arrest, and their job is not even to charge. The prosecutors do that.
Yeah.
And a jury finds them guilty, or a judge finds them guilty, depending on what kind of trial it is. So, as a police officer, if you're chasing someone, like, what type of a mentality do you have to want to use your gun when it's really not necessary? I
think the word you used, apprehend, I think that may not be the word that's in their head. The word in their head may be stop. And if the word is stop, they can use their gun to stop somebody.
Well, I mean, I don't even think this is kind of a mentality or something, some mindset that cops have. I think like this kind of hero mentality is not just limited to them. I think we have that kind of attitude in general, at least here in the United States. Everyone wants to be a hero. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to be that good guy with a gun. And what better way, or what, I guess, better opportunity to be a good guy with the gun than to become a police officer? You know what I'm saying?
And see, that's where I'm going to go into a different direction. I question whether this guy should have been a police officer in the first place, because he has a questionable past. So he's only been with the Kingsland Police Department for about a year. Okay, before he was hired, he was forthcoming about his past. So his past includes being arrested before for reckless, eluding, speeding. He admitted to having multiple physical altercations with his wife. He admitted to purchasing illegal drugs and driving under the influence once in 2012.
So basically what you're telling me is he had the profile of someone you would not even want to be friends with. Never, like, not like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not even just hire as
being
cop,
cool with.
or
Yeah.
like being cool with. Like you wouldn't want to even be friends with this guy,
Probably
much
not.
less hire him in a position that requires him to carry weapons,
Hand him a badge and a gun,
and have authority over other people. So when he is not in authority, he is a menace. So imagine what kind of menace he would be if he was in authority. That's what I would think if I was reviewing this guy's profile.
See, that's the problem, okay? There are many of us who believe that police officers are the best of us. For some reason, when they put on that uniform and they wear that badge, when they are in official capacity as a police officer, they are the best of us. They have all the integrity in the world. They have none of the human conditions that ails everybody else. No, they are something else now. They're RoboCop. So
did you actually see that movie?
Yeah, I did.
The new one.
Yeah,
the new one.
No, I saw the old one. No, I saw the old one. No, I haven't seen the old.
You gotta see the new one.
I haven't seen the new one.
It's
yet.
exactly like you say.
Is it?
Like basically, they drain all of those those chemicals, those neurotransmitters, like chemicals in your brain. They drain all of those out, and you basically become a robot. You make decisions based on like calculations and like no meaning at all. Everything's analytical.
See, that's not the way it is. See, we got people like this that are occupying roles as police officers. Like, what do you think is going to happen when they stop people, when they come into a confrontation with another human being? If they're like messy enough to have physical confrontations with their wives, if they're arrested for reckless eluding, a speeding charge, something. I mean, this has the profile, like Mike said, like he has the profile of somebody that you probably don't want to be cool with. But when you're talking about somebody that can dish out the death sentence, should he occupy that role? No. He's not the best of us.
Since we're on this subject, and we probably will be moving on to another subject, and I don't want to let this comment go scroll up in the chat because we won't see it. And this is from Iron. It says the question is, do you let someone who was involved in a drive-by go to continue to endanger the public? It's a tough one. I agree police are not the cream of the crop. Okay, let's piece that question together. Number one, the cop at the time did not know who in the car was involved in the drive-by. Number two, you say continue to endanger the public. Your first question actually contradicts, or your first point contradicts your second, because if it's a drive-by, that means it was somebody specific. So they weren't, you could assume that they were no danger to the public at large because they just weren't running around shooting and killing or random people. And number three, maybe you should ask that question to the DA who decided to charge Rosfeld. So I'm saying, so the DA made that decision, and they made the determination based on Rosfeld, I guess, the actions he used not qualifying for the amount of force he exercised in that moment. So basically,
you can't just shoot somebody to stop them. That's basically it. There was not enough time for Officer Rosfeld to assess a threat. They ran. You don't know what's going on. It's your job to apprehend them. Not stop with a bullet. That's your job. It's as simple as that, man. So anyway, with the other case with the Anthony Marcel Green, his family's attorney is Reginald Green, and released a statement saying that Tony Green was gunned down in cold blood by Officer Presley. We are encouraged by his swift arrest, but we intend to remain vigilant until he is brought to justice and the family is able to get answers as to why this happened in the first place. The senseless killings of black men by police must stop. So again, this was a quick arrest. This was a quick charge. This was a quick firing. So again, this is something that we will be paying attention to as the months come and his trial is eventually set, and we'll see the outcomes there. So all right, let's get to the Supreme Court. Another big story. Justice Anthony Kennedy is retiring from the U.S. Supreme Court, he announced on Wednesday. The retirement is effective July 31st, and the impact may possibly be felt for years to come. Justice Kennedy is a conservative. He was appointed by Ronald Reagan back in 1988, but he has been a swing vote in several major decisions.
88, dog. Go ahead, my
it's
bad.
been a long time.
I'm just thinking about that, man. That just kind of
Kennedy is 81.
Just settled in.
So he's up there in age. But on marriage equality, affirmative action, abortion access, and the death penalty, Justice Kennedy ruled with the liberal justices and were able to swing that vote their way. So replacing Kennedy with someone like Trump's first Supreme Court nomination and appointment, Neil Gorsuch, that could and more than likely be absolutely devastating. it could be absolutely devastating to many, many people in this country. So Trump is in a position now to nominate his second justice, and the thought is that he will probably nominate somebody that is younger. That would probably be the first priority. I don't know if, I don't know if it will go that way. You would think that he would probably want to, nominate somebody that's in their 40s. So that they can occupy that seat for
a long
many
time,
decades.
Because you said 88, that's 30 years. That's 30 years. 30 years. I was 88, depending on when that was, probably 7 or 8 years old, man.
That's correct, man.
So it kind of changes the course of history. You know what I'm saying? So Supreme Court judges matter. If I'm looking at the glass half empty, yeah. If I'm looking at the glass half empty, I'm not mourning his retirement because he dropped the ball on Citizens United.
Oh yeah.
Bush versus Gore, travel ban, and EPA pollution rules. But if I'm looking at it the glass half full,
and just recently the
Muslim ban.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm looking at the glass half empty, that's the way I see it. But if I'm looking at the glass kind of half full and just looking at the impact, you know what I'm saying, that his retirement would have and the implications, just looking at the glass half full, I have to be well, damn, whoever Trump's pick is, or whoever Trump nominates, is going to be worse. And he did, like you said, same-sex marriage, upholding the Affordable Care Act, housing discrimination and employment discrimination. He's been on the right side.
Yep.
So just looking at it from that standpoint, I can't be a zero-sum game.
He's the kind of conservative on the bench that, as a liberal or a Democrat, progressive, whatever, he's the one that it's if you have to have a conservative on the bench, then that's, I guess, the guy that you want there. The other ones are much worse. Gorsuch is much worse. Whoever Trump tries to appoint will realistically and plausibly be much worse. So, again, this has a chance to devastate the country for many years to come. We know what the conservative agenda is. We know that they want to overturn Roe v. Wade. We know they want to do something about marriage equality. There's no good way to frame this.
People on Twitter were joking that Trump was going to pick Jeanine Pirro. But the sad thing about it is, even though it was a joke, guess who retweeted that was a great idea?
Who did, man?
Don Jr.
Forget John Jr.
Don Jr. tweeted that'll be a great idea.
I can't imagine.
And he is actually...
I can't imagine her as a judge. I can't.
There's a lot of things we couldn't imagine that happened.
That's true.
In the last year and a half. I don't think he would go there, but she has been licking his balls this whole time, and you know how he likes that.
She's ridiculous, though. But okay, so there is some, I guess, Democrats are trying to position themselves in the same place that people like Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was positioning himself back in 2016. So back in 2016, President Obama wanted to fill the empty seat on the U.S. Supreme Court because Scalia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Scalia had died. So it was on him to nominate somebody. So he did nominate somebody. Can't remember what that centrist name is off the top of my head.
Garland?
Merrick Garland. Yeah. Anyway, so he nominated him, but did Merrick Garland receive a hearing? No, he did not. And this was in the early part of the year, but he did not receive a hearing because conservatives and, of course, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said that we need to wait and let the American people decide who they want to be on the bench, even though it's not for the American people to decide. Yeah,
he's just saying that to make it somehow there's going to be justice served in this instance.
Yeah.
Ron Churchman that brings up there's 25 justices on the short list, and you're correct. I was just reading that before the show, and during during Donald Trump's campaign, he made it clear that that was one of the things he was going to, go after. Not particularly Roe versus Wade.
So, like I said, so the Democrats' position now, a number of them have made statements, and they feel like this hearing cannot happen before the midterms later this year. So Senator Dick Durbin said Senator McConnell set the new standard by giving the American people their say in the upcoming election before court vacancies are filled. With so much at stake for the people of our country, the U.S. Senate must be consistent and consider the president's nominee once the new Congress is seated in January. The minority leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, he said millions of people are just months away from determining the senators who should vote to confirm or reject the president's nominee, and their voices deserve to be heard now, as Leader McConnell thought they should deserve to be heard then. Anything but that would be the absolute height of hypocrisy.
You really think that they care about hypocrisy?
Of course.
It doesn't matter. As long as they have power, they don't care about being hypocrites, man.
Nah, of course not. Of course not.
They don't care about being hypocrites.
It's very easy for them to take a position in current times and then later on be like, well, that position back then doesn't suit our needs right now, our objectives now, our agenda.
So it doesn't exist.
It's out the window. Stop looking into the past, man. Here we are right here, man. So, I mean, it's not a presidential election year because that was the language that conservatives was using then. Like, hey, the lame duck president shouldn't get to make a call, even though he was still had like about a year left in his term. Lame duck, like a year left. He's a lame duck. All right, whatever. But anyway, it's not a presidential year, but it's the same argument. Let it wait to November, when we don't know what's going to happen in the House. We don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. And the Senate matters because those are the people that are going to be confirming or rejecting the confirmation of whoever Trump nominates. So, again, this could be very devastating for many, many reasons. We'll just have to see
Iron.
How it plays out.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Trump is anti-abortion. Like I said, he kind of cozied up to the right on this subject throughout his campaign. And regardless of what I think about Trump's word, he looks like he wants to keep them all. So I wouldn't put it past him to try to kind of put a justice in there that would vote in his favor.
You remember what he said during the campaign? Before he was president. He had to backtrack from that position, but he said that no, he was advocating for punishing women that actually had an abortion. And then he changed his language and said that, no, we should punish the doctors, not the women, the doctors. So, Trump will try to nominate somebody that is against abortion and that will seek to overturn Roe v. Wade. I don't know what to say. Like I said, that it could be devastating for many, many reasons.
And again, let's just say he hasn't really confirmed like when though. That's the thing. He hasn't confirmed when. Like when he's retiring.
No, yeah, he did. No, it was July 31st.
I heard that wasn't like official. I heard that wasn't official. That's what I heard that date put out there, but I also read that wasn't official. That was like projected. So I don't know.
Like I said, I saw that report. I don't have a line to him. I don't have a connection to him. But that's the thing.
Either way, when it occurs, it's still bad. Whether it occurs this year or next year or whenever, it's still going to be.
Trump still has.
While Trump is still president.
Trump still has what? 2.5 years.
2.5 years, and if the Democrats keep playing like they have been, maybe even more.
Look, I keep saying that it could be devastating to overturn things like Roe v. Wade or even marriage equality. Man. Boy, I don't know what the blowback would be. it would be intense. And intense is not even the right word.
When you're talking about intense, you're talking about. You think this women's march after, after February, was it February of last year? The women's march, I think. You think that was big?
Duh. Look, man, I'm talking about you strip away abortion access for women in this country. Man, be prepared for something that I don't think you've ever seen before.
Like, I think Iron has the right idea in saying that it would be political suicide. Not all Republicans are pro-choice, and he's right about he's right about that. Mm-hmm. But see, that's the issue is politics are usually, especially in the right wing, are controlled by that small group of fundamentalists and extremists. They are kind of driving the bus. They are driving the party bus, and that's the problem. So even though all Republicans aren't, I guess, pro-choice, or all Republicans aren't pro-choice or whatever, all Republicans do not advocate for abolishing abortion. It doesn't matter if who is driving the bus does. It really doesn't matter. Because they're kind of controlling where the party goes. So even though, go ahead.
And see, that's the thing. No matter if they don't agree with overturning Roe v. Wade or not, whoever this nominee is that going to be the defining characteristic of this nominee? Are they going to be like, well, he's he's pro-life like I am too.
Terrible. I
don't think that's gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be able to be. I don't think they're gonna be able to vote against them just for that. It's gonna be different factors too that they're gonna be like, well, no, I like this guy, so yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was a typo. Iron. I think most people knew it was a typo. That's why I was kind of confused. But yeah, we knew it was a typo. But I don't know, man. Again, it's not just about abortion. It's not just about abortion. It's going to be about.
It's not, but that's a major issue, man. Like I said, I can't even envision something like that happening. But if that does happen, boy, this whole patriarchy, boy, it may be on. Boy, it's already coming. I mean, women are already.
Oh, so you think it's going to accelerate?
Oh yeah,
like pretty much men fucking themselves.
Oh
over.
Yeah, yeah. Because this will be men that are doing this. This will be men that are doing this.
Pretty much, yeah. Obviously, they're going to have women that support them, but they're going to be at the forefront of this. So, yeah, I could see it accelerating, men stepping on, putting a sledgehammer in their own toe.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Boy, like I said, I can't imagine it, but we'll see. We'll see. It's something to watch after. So more on the Supreme Court and another 5-4 vote. On Wednesday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against public employee unions that will likely lead to or result in loss of money, members, and political influence for unions. Unions have been able to collect fees from non-union members to help with collective bargaining costs. And a 1977 ruling affirmed that ability. So conservatives have been trying for years to overturn that ruling, and they finally succeeded. So this is from USA Today, I believe. And it says about 5 million workers could be affected by the decision overruling the court's 1977 decision in Abood versus Detroit Board of Education. Those who pay dues or fair share fees to unions in 22 states where public employees can be required to contribute. Workers in 28 states already cannot be forced to join or pay unions. So no doubt this is, of course, this is on the conservative agenda and has been on the conservative agenda for many years. And no doubt the reason is because, for the most part, unions tend to back the Democratic Party. So if you can chip away at their influence, then you can chip away at the influence of the Democratic Party, or at least go after how Democrats are raising money and elected into office.
But how, like, to me, it was interesting in how the plaintiff argued the case, on what grounds, and in the case against the union, the plaintiff argued on First Amendment grounds that forcing him to pay dues to union was compelled speech. That's what he argued on the grounds of, and the court agreed. To me, that kind of is contradictory in my opinion, because according to the National Labor Relations Act, unions have to represent everyone, and this ruling doesn't change that. Doesn't change anything. They have to represent non-members. So my thing is, the law as it is now, based on this ruling, says that unions are compelled to represent everyone, right? But people aren't compelled to pay union dues. You see what I'm saying? You see how that sets up like a double standard, a contradictory double standard there? Yeah. So to me, speed is okay. They're trying to establish, which has already been established, but they're trying to, I guess, establish in this case that money is speech, because the money that it's going to the union is doing something that they claim not to, I guess, want to be done for them. Well, okay, money is speech. Well, speech is speech too. So if the union is compelled to represent non-members through its speech, and in turn, I guess, foot the bill for representation, that covers both bases. Both speech is speech and money is speech. So to me, it doesn't make sense. This ruling doesn't make sense because it comes into conflict with the current law, because the current law has unions being compelled to represent people. Isn't that compelling their speech?
So with unions, okay, so with these non-members, like these non-members that are paying into these unions, they're not paying as much as members. So it's, like a percentage less that they're paying. Like Mike was saying, they're paying it so that unions can operate and they can advocate for everybody. They're not just advocating for the people that are members of the union. They're advocating for everybody, even non-members. This includes conservatives.
Yeah, so it's not
just Democratic union members or non-members that are Democratic. It's everybody. So what they're trying, like, the whole point of a union is what? To advocate on behalf of the worker, to make sure that the worker has fair rights, right? Like, their rights are being served, they're being treated fairly, working conditions are good, or they're good enough, pay is good, all of this, right? They advocate on behalf of the worker. Doesn't matter who that worker is.
The duty of fair representation.
Right.
I mean, and they must represent non-members, and if they don't represent non-members, or have been proven to not represent non-members, the union rep suffers a penalty.
So this is how the Republican Party, conservatives, this is how they effectively demonize unions. Because like we said, unions for the most part back Democratic campaigns. And we're still dropping frames, even though the software does not tell us that we're dropping any frames. So again, this has to be a YouTube problem.
Yeah.
It looks like we're are we? Yeah, it looks like we're consistent, or it's not breaking up. Anybody see any buffering or anything like that? Gotta see if my movements are smooth or if it's choppy. All right, I think it's all right. All right, so this is how the Republican Party conservatives are able to demonize unions, because unions, for the most part, back Democratic campaigns. Since they do that, Republicans will then say, hey, Republicans, unions are no good for you. You see, they're backing these Democratic campaigns. Do you really want your money going to Democratic campaigns? Do you really want them to actually work to get Democrats in office? Of course, regular people, Republicans, conservatives, they'll be like, of course not. That's of course not what we want to do. Let's fight this. But what the worker does not understand is that the union is advocating for you at the same time, dummy. You understand? Like, it doesn't matter that these unions are backing Democratic interests,
because whatever the benefit comes from that, they will reap the benefits of it.
Exactly. Like, your money is going to collective bargaining, right? Your money is going to make sure that your rights are upheld in your worker environment, right? In your work environment. Make sure that you get a fair salary. Make sure that conditions are safe for you. Make sure that somebody's fighting for you. Somebody's there fighting on your behalf. Because when you're alone, you don't have that power. You don't have that influence. But when a union comes in and they can pull everybody together and say, you know what? We're going to act as a team here. They're not going to get over on all of us. That's why these businesses hate when unions come into town. That's why, you remember Walmart?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Threaten people about joining these unions. They don't want unions to come in. Now, a typical, I guess a typical slight of unions are that they cost the state so much money. They cost corporations so much money. You know why they don't like that? You know why these corporations don't like that? Because they want as much profit as they can get. That's basically it. Do you see any other reason?
No, I don't see any other reason. Because it affects their bottom line.
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, it's not like all unions are created equal. Obviously, it depends on who the union rep is, and what their motives are. This is not some sort of all unions under, kind of a blanket statement of support. Mm-hmm. All unions are great.
Right.
Just we're not saying, but we're talking about just the basic concepts of what a union is supposed to be.
Right. And over 60% of Americans do support unions. That was per a recent Gallup poll, and I believe that's a high since 2003. So many people back unions because, again, most unions actually do the right damn thing and they advocate for their workers, no matter who their workers are. So this Supreme Court decision does have a significant chance at reducing the effect, the influence of unions all across the country. So, again, another Supreme Court decision that will be felt maybe for years to come.
To me, I think there should be a change in labor law, in my opinion. I think there should be a drastic change in labor law because it's unfair to unions, and it just seems like this is something that was only designed to kneecap them. Because how can you compel unions to represent everybody, but then not compel everybody to chip into that support? Because there's cost to that,
right?
You know what I'm saying? They have to pay for representation, have to pay for lawyers, they have to essentially pay for influence. So
you're kneecapping them.
You're kneecapping them. And you're kind of, again, it's a double standard. If the court is saying it's compelled speech because you're forcing people to, I guess, be represented when they don't want it, then you have to say the same thing for unions in general. You can't force them to represent everybody then.
So it's basically like, don't walk with two legs. We're gonna force you to walk with one.
Mm-hmm.
But
you have to carry the same weight.
Yeah.
We're forcing you to walk on one leg, but we're forcing you to carry the same weight at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Let's get to Steve King.
Oh, gosh.
Representative Steve King. Funny guy, man. We have talked about Steve King on a number of occasions. Mm-hmm. He has given us reason to talk about him on a number of occasions, and today is no different. Representative Steve King, who is a Republican. Representative Steve King, who is a Republican member of Congress from Iowa's 4th Congressional District. He has been in the U.S. Congress since 2003. By the way, I don't know if you knew this or not, but he's a bigot.
I would go further and say he's an authoritarian fascist.
Tomatoes.
Well, he's on that next level.
Yeah. He's also a hypocrite, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay. So on Monday, Representative King retweeted a post by a man named Mark Collette, who is a neo-Nazi, a British neo-Nazi. Collette has been known to express his admiration of Adolf Hitler. He's described HIV as a friendly disease because it has killed black people and gay people. He's also claimed that the porn industry is a Jewish conspiracy to destroy Christian families. That's who Mark Collette is. And that is who Representative Steve King, the Republican from Iowa, retweeted. So the post that Representative King retweeted, it was about European immigration, and specifically it was about Italy. It was a screen grab of an article that was on Breitbart. So the title was vast majority of under 35 Italians now oppose mass immigration. So you can imagine what kind of article it was. It included one case of I believe it was a Nigerian, I believe, somebody that wasn't an Italian national, somebody from Nigeria, I believe, and committed an assault or a homicide on an Italian national. So of course they threw that in, and they were saying how, younger people under 35, the group under 35 Italians, they are more so like their opposition to immigration is increasing.
I wonder where does he get that percentage from? Like what kind of people were polled? What's their political leanings? So he might be correct in saying X amount of people, X percentage of people under 35, agree that immigration is a problem. But what was the target group? You know what I'm saying?
We have no idea. This is a Breitbart article.
Of course.
I have no idea. But anyway, that wasn't the, I guess him retweet or, the article is really not the issue, because when you're talking about racism, when you're talking about Islamophobia, when you're talking about bigotry, it was pretty so-so on those margins. It wasn't your most inflammatory article. So it was just just your basic right wing kind of
it's
talking point.
Talking point. It's typical wedge issue, immigration.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know what they're trying to get at, but it was done in a benign way, but you know what they were trying to get at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's not the issue.
These brown people invading our country.
Yeah. But like I said, you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. That's, like I said, that's par for the course. The issue was that it actually wasn't even a link. It was a screen grab. So it was just a picture of the article, and it came from a neo-Nazi, a British neo-Nazi. So Representative Steve King, at first, he didn't even want to address it. He didn't take down, when it was reported that he retweeted a neo-Nazi, he didn't take it down. He didn't speak about it. He refused to take questions about it. He would just not address it at all. Finally, he did address it. So recently, he did an interview with CNN's Chris Cuomo. So we have a clip of that interview, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
I have no idea who he is. I don't know why we're giving him a world-famous name now into the news. I'm not obligated to do a full background check on anybody.
But you say, but I won't delete the tweet.
Right.
I don't get it.
It's pretty simple. It's
Why?
pretty simple. I tweeted a Breitbart story. I didn't tweet a message from him. I tweeted a Breitbart story. I recognized the screenshot as Breitbart, and I tweeted it. And I went back a little bit later when some folks pointed this out, and I went and got the tiny URL, and I tweeted the Breitbart story off of their website. And I said, this is what I intended to send. I'm not deleting that, because then you all pile on me and say King had to apologize. He was wrong. He knows he's guilty. I'm not. I don't feel guilty one bit. I'm human.
You're so caught up in this us versus them thing with the left and the right that you don't want to give ground on even something that you acknowledge is wrong. How nuts is that?
No. I retweeted a Breitbart story. That wasn't wrong. He was an anonymous individual until you and others highlighted his name.
You have given license to people who share his thoughts. I'm sure your staffers have pointed out to you that on social media, you got a lot of ugly people using your name, waving it as a flag of someone who accepts what they're about, and getting into all their ideas because you retweeted this guy.
Chris, I'm not aware of any of that, but I am aware of many leftists that are attacking me, trying to get me to take this down. I'm not taking it down. It was simply a Breitbart story that I tweeted.
Defiant. Completely and utterly defiant. He doesn't see the big issue. Because, see, he didn't give this dude a platform. It was CNN that did that. It was all the leftists that brought awareness to this. See, you people are making this a story. This is a non-issue because I didn't even know who the guy was. That's what Steve King's position is.
Wait a second. He retweeted something from this guy. So either he follows him or somebody he follows retweeted. Was the name Collette?
Yeah,
Mark Collette.
Mm-hmm.
So either he's already following Mark Collette or somebody who's King is follows Mark Collette, and they retweeted it, and then he retweeted it. But you can still see who's tweeting it, who originally tweeted it.
Well, see, his position is that he didn't know the guy. It's not his. I guess it's not his job to research everything about a particular individual before he retweets something. He was supportive of the article. That's why he retweeted it. And then that's what he said. He went back and he actually tweeted the URL of the actual article. But see, why did you even do that? Why'd you even do that? That's a guilty conscience, isn't it?
Yeah, because my thing is, like, he claims that, oh, I just saw like a picture of I saw a screenshot of the article and retweeted that. Like, which leads me to believe he didn't even read the article first.
Why would it? Who retweets a picture of an article if? First of all, you'd have to know the article. Like, you'd have to be supportive of the article, right? And let's say he did. Let's say he did read it, and let's say he was supportive of it. Why would you retweet just a picture of it? Why wouldn't you, like, if you wanted somebody to, because the whole reason why you retweet anything or post anything is because you want other people to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you retweet an article or anything that has to do with the article, you probably want other people to read it. But see, why wouldn't you just go to Breitbart and say, okay, Twitter, bam, it's done?
Because I think,
why would you tweet a screen grab?
Okay, I think because King is simple-minded, and all he probably is interested in doing is kind of showing instances or articles that kind of reinforce his worldview and his talking point.
Right.
And if you just look at the headline of the article and the screen, the capture, or just the picture along with the article, it says it kind of says all we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, about the subject and what that article is supposed to be, I guess, getting across to the audience without even reading the article. So that's enough for King. So it is a possibility that that's all he wanted to do, because we already know who is going to be following somebody like King. All
right.
they need to do is see a screen capture of that article. They probably don't even care about reading it. All it does is just reinforce their worldview,
because a lot of people don't read articles.
A lot of people don't read articles anyway.
They just
so
read the headline.
Again, we're approaching this as if we're not talking about somebody who is simple-minded. We're approaching this as, like we're talking about somebody who has not displayed themselves to be a hypocrite.
Mm-hmm. But again, in the face of the controversy, in the face of all this exposure now of who this particular individual is that you retweeted, And many times in this interview, you said, "That's not me, Chris. You know who I am. You know that's not me." And Chris Cuomo's like, "I know. I'm not calling you a neo-Nazi, okay? Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter if we agree or not. But if Representative King believes that that's not who he is, then why would you align yourself with somebody? Because that's exactly what you did. If that is somebody that you don't agree with, somebody that is the antithesis of what you are, then you don't connect yourself to them in any way. You don't give them a platform. And just like Cuomo said, you're giving people that believe that certain type of way, you're giving them the ability to be like, see, Steve King is with us.
Yeah, like a political official shared my, shared my tweet.
But see, this is a picture of Steve King. This was I believe it was about 2 years ago. If you look in the at the bottom there, see a few flags.
Yeah.
There's one flag that somebody might have a problem with. Is it that Confederate flag? You think? This was just in 2016. I think he still has it on his desk.
I mean, he's probably had it on other desks too, and he just transferring it. It's just a decoration.
Oh, it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. This is just heritage, because probably has roots from the South. Probably had family members who fought in the Civil War. So it's just about
what's remembering interesting?
History. Yeah.
He represents Iowa, right?
That's close.
But I believe Iowa fought for the Union.
See, that doesn't matter. Because he's probably a history buff.
What?
The history buff study all history.
But then he would have seen that the state that he's representing actually...
No. It doesn't matter. He's a history buff without bias. He's a history buff without... taking a side of history. He's just a history buff just to be a history buff, and he wants those representations of history to be present because he just likes history. Is that good enough for you?
Nah. I'm trying to I'm
not sold. You're not sold.
I'm not sold on that.
Okay.
But anyway, this is nothing new for Representative King. I believe it was right after President Obama was elected back in 2008. Representative Sting said that Al-Qaeda and radical Islamists, they would be celebrating, dancing in the streets because Obama winning the election would signify that they have won the war on terror. Like they've won. They've won. Like terror has won.
Speaking about giving people a platform and making them more known than what they really are is kind of what King is getting at with this Khaled dude. What was his perspective on Colin Kaepernick kneeling?
Oh yeah, he did have
talking about giving people a platform.
Yeah, he did have.
Nobody would know, who Khaled was. So, what did he do with Colin Kaepernick?
Before we get there, because see, you jumping ahead. Let's let the man. Because see, that's where we were getting into a little bit of hypocrisy, a little bit of a contradiction.
Yeah.
So there's another clip that we want to show you with Chris Cuomo, which Representative King lays out the case that he loves this country, everything about this country. Okay, so let's his words speak for himself.
I have no idea who he is. I don't know why we're giving. I believe in this country. I believe in the pillars of American exceptionalism. I want to restore them. I don't want to tear them down. We do have freedom of speech in this country.
Sure.
I'm watching that be suppressed around the country with intimidation attacks on my colleagues. I think they waited about a year for the anniversary of the shooting of Steve Scalise and others, and now they're starting to challenge the members of this administration out in the restaurants and around in the streets of America. That is something we should be concerned about, Chris.
Did you see his face? Did you see Chris's face?
Yo.
Did you see his face?
Damn it. I don't have my whistle.
See? I keep telling you, man.
I could have
whistle.
Foul, technical, something.
This is like flagrant 2. This is a flagrant 2, man.
He said, hey, he believes in American exceptionalism. He believes in all the pillars of this country. Believes in freedom of speech.
No, pillars of American exceptionalism. And he wants to restore them, not tear them down. See, just that part tells me all I need to know. I already knew what he was going into. As soon as somebody says, I believe in the pillars of American exceptionalism and I want to restore them, they might as well just say, we need to go back to the good old days.
But again, we still haven't gotten to the contradiction. All right?
Oh, there's many of them.
Yeah, I know. But
the contradiction.
Yeah. But okay, again, so we let his words speak for themselves, right? Let's go back to 2016. September 2016. Let's let his work speak for themselves.
Colin Kaepernick is representing the San Francisco 49ers when he puts on that uniform, when he steps out on the stage, the world stage. He's taken advantage of that, and he's undermining patriotism. I understand that he has an Islamic girlfriend that is his fiance, and that this has changed him. He's taken on some different political views along the way. This is activism that's sympathetic to ISIS. And for me, if I'm the coach, I would say, you're done. Until you take a knee and beg forgiveness from the American people, you're not going to set foot out on this field again.
Well, if he says Colin Kaepernick's activism and his views are sympathetic to ISIS, then I can say King's views and activism and attitude is sympathetic to
white supremacy,
neo-Nazis.
Yeah. But you see the contradiction.
He says, I'm standing up for American values, freedom
of speech, right? So he doesn't want his freedom of speech infringed upon. There should be no penalty, no punishment. This is a non-issue, everybody. And you know what? I refuse to take down the post. You can't punish me for my freedom of speech. But Colin Kaepernick, who is kneeling on the field, who is activating his own freedom of speech, not hurting anybody. Silently. He and his freedom of speech, his freedom of expression, his right to protest, that should be punished. And he should be begging on his knees to the owner before he should be allowed to play again.
Begging on his knees to the owner and asking the American people for forgiveness.
Right.
That sounds very authoritarian to me. See, what he really means is like he's a part of that American group. He's not really talking just about Colin Kaepernick getting on his knees and begging for forgiveness toward Americans, on behalf of Americans, but he is including himself in that. Mm-hmm. He wants Colin Kaepernick to beg for forgiveness to him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like I'm kind of confused though, because he referenced the Sarah Sanders restaurant situation. I'm not even gonna deal with this Scalise bullshit. That's not even worth dealing with. But
like since waiting a year,
please,
whatever.
That's dumb. Yeah. But he's talking about I forgot what word he used, but leftists like going around suppressing free speech, and he referenced Sarah Huckabee Sanders. But I'm like, no one is suppressing their freedom of speech. Like,
nobody did that.
No, people are challenging this administration's policies and showing their dissatisfaction
through their freedom of speech.
I was just gonna say that. Like, don't people like have the right to challenge the government using their speech? But man, serious. That's why I call him a fascist authoritarian, because he's pretty much saying criticizing this administration is a non-starter. You know what I'm saying? Like they have a right not to be challenged. You know what I'm saying? They have a right to enact any policy that they want to without people getting bent out of shape about it.
Right. They have a right to say whatever they want to. They have a right to express themselves in any way that they want to without being challenged on it. Don't actually protest against us. Don't say anything detrimental to us. Don't challenge us at all, because we're allowed to do this per the Constitution, per this great nation. But somebody like Colin Kaepernick, he is disallowed from doing stuff like that.
I think it's important to mention that people, you know, when people get bent out of shape about some sort of governmental policy, I think it's important to mention that the government policy that people are, I guess, people have a disposition towards, has to do with usually people being disenfranchised or marginalized or something dealing with human rights or civil rights. You see what I'm saying? So that makes it even worse. That, hey, you're challenging us on those issues. That means you're suppressing our freedom of speech. But see, so he doesn't really mean speech in that instance. He means something else. You're challenging our ability to put our foot on your neck.
Yep. That's basically it. Because the louder you get, the more outrage there is, the more difficult it is for us to actually succeed with our agenda. So stop it. Stop it. We don't want to hear it. You know what? When you do it, we're going to call it out, and we're going to say it's like this leftist thing that shouldn't be allowed to happen. But meanwhile, I'm going to retweet neo-Nazis all day long and not apologize for it and not delete them. Holla at me.
But he wants Colin Kaepernick to apologize to everyone.
But for him, no. No.
But do you really think they recognize the irony in their inconsistency and how they treat, I guess, the topic of people, I guess, expressing their grievances toward the government? Because, like, when it's their political opponents, right, isn't it patriotic? If it's their political opponents, right, if it's someone expressing a disposition about the government and it's directed at their political opponents, they view that as patriotic. It's their patriotic duty to challenge the government, right? Fighting tyranny. But I think it's amazing when, while they're in power, or when they assume power, when they get in power, they don't see themselves as the tyrants at all. You know what I'm saying? That kind of how they apply their ideas of freedom and people challenging government kind of go away. They don't recognize, like, wait a second, you're the power. You're the government. Like, so essentially, you're the tyranny that people should fight against, right? So how come they don't see themselves as the ones enacting tyranny when they are in power?
This is why LTMB cannot be on CNN. This is the prime reason a show like this, anybody with minds like this, cannot be with corporate media. Because, I mean, there may be some in corporate media who you don't think are as bad as others. You know, some that you may view as fair. Chris Cuomo, at times, he asked some really good questions. During that interview, he made some good points. But as soon as I saw, or as soon as I heard Representative King's comments about freedom of speech, immediately I go to Colin Kaepernick. Immediately. So I would like to, I mean, like, that's the question that you ask. How do you reconcile the fact that you deserve freedom of speech and it should not be infringed upon? It should not be challenged. There should be no retribution. There should be no penalty for that whatsoever. You have the right to post whatever you want to on Twitter, and it's everybody else that's making us think about it. You people, everybody, the leftists, you are making it a problem, not me. No punishment. But when it comes to somebody like Colin Kaepernick, it is you that are making this a problem because you don't want to hear anything that Colin Kaepernick has to say. You want your view of America to reign supreme. So when somebody challenges that idea and says that we have significant problems here, we don't want to hear that. Shut that down, Colin Kaepernick. Don't say another damn word. Get on your knees and beg for forgiveness.
Wait a second.
Your job is in jeopardy.
So are you saying you're defining Colin Kaepernick's kneeling and the issues he was highlighting as him petitioning the government, right? That's exactly what he was doing. And that is exactly what the thing, like, what Colin Kaepernick did is the exact thing that King usually, I guess, gives credit to people for doing, right? Right? Speaking out about issues, petitioning the government, speaking out about, I guess, tyranny in a certain context.
As long as they don't challenge, his viewpoints.
Well, see, he's the tyrant. That's why.
Yes.
But see, that's the cognitive dissonance of authoritarian fascism. It thrives on contradiction. That's exactly why civility won't work.
That's true. But again, see, that's why we can't be on the airwaves. Because if we ask that question, if that pops into our head and we ask Steve King, okay, hey, how do you reconcile these two things? Freedom of speech for you, no freedom of speech for Colin Kaepernick.
How does he reconcile it? It's not happening.
I think we're gonna see a lot of eye blinking.
We might see him just walk off the set. Because his brain is gonna shut down. They're not gonna recognize the contradiction. Like I said,
do you really think they don't recognize it though?
No. I think
it's hard to imagine that. I think maybe you could say some, but it's just hard to imagine that they don't really have that awareness. It's hard to imagine.
I don't think they do, because you can see how fervent he was in his defense of himself. Mm-hmm. Like you can't be so contradictory and kind of not let it show. He doesn't even let it show. Obviously his contradiction shows, but he's not glitching out over it. Mm-hmm. He never glitches out over it, and he never glitches out if someone brings it to his face. So he's not glitching out, so he doesn't recognize it. He's not doing this like short circuit thing. He's not short circuiting. So I don't think he's quite aware of it. I don't think authoritarian fascists are aware of it. They're not aware of it. They're always going to justify it. It's like, it's not freedom for you, mm-hmm. because it kind of it contradicts my idea of what America is and what I am. So I have to define it as something else. I have to define your freedom as tyranny, and my tyranny is freedom.
All right, let's move on. We got a couple more to go. Already at 10:15. All right, Harley Davidson announced on Monday that it would produce motorcycles destined for European countries and foreign countries, or in foreign factories. Harley Davidson claimed the reason for the decision was because EU tariffs on motorcycles exported from the U.S. rose from 6% to 31% in recent weeks. And this was because of the tariffs that were applied by President Donald Trump. So the cost for them, or at least the added cost to the motorcycles for them, they said was $2,200, and in pounds it was 1,657 pounds. So they said in the next couple of years it would amount to over $100 million in extra costs. So in the meantime, Harley Davidson said that they will not transfer that cost over to the customer, I guess, as of right now. And like I said, they're in the process of moving things overseas. But they said that it is an immediate and lasting detrimental impact to his business in the region. So you would guess that President Trump probably would not have a positive reaction to this news.
Of course not, because it reflects directly on his decisions.
Directly. Straight line, right?
Very short line.
A very short line. So on Twitter, President Trump said, surprised that Harley Davidson, of all companies, would be the first to wave the white flag. I fought hard for them, and ultimately they will not pay tariffs selling into the EU, which has hurt us badly on trade, down $151 billion. Taxes, just a Harley excuse. Be patient. Hashtag Malcolm.
Trump seems to have forgotten that we live in a global market, right?
We do.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these companies assess what the market demand is going to be across the borders, and they invest resources in those markets if they can, make a profit.
It's not just about what's happening this month or next month. To be a good business, you got to see down the line.
Yeah, and if it's costing them too much to do business, then guess what? They're going to make moves.
Yep, got to.
You can't blame them. Nope. I can't blame them for making moves. And like, what does Trump expect? Does Trump expect Harley Davidson to kind of hemorrhage massive amounts of money until, you know, I guess Trump,
wins the trade war.
Till his 5D chess moves
are
finished.
Exactly.
Like I'm just saying, like if that's the case, and Trump is like, you know, you gave up and you waved the white flag, what if that's true? Let's just say that's true. Let's just say there's like some 5D chess going on, and at the end of the day, Harley Davidson, hey, they're gonna come out on top. Mm-hmm. But what do they do in the meantime? That's the question. So
lose money.
They'll lose money. They'll lose money in the meantime, possibly go under if they don't make moves as a corporation. So like, what does he expect them to do in between the time of the tariffs and I guess that point, whenever that may be in the future, where this ends up working out for this company on other companies? Like, what do they do in the meantime?
Is Trump going to be there, or is the federal government going to be there to hand out whatever they're losing? I doubt it. I mean, I know these big businesses do get corporate welfare, and they did get a massive gift just a few months ago because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But
that just still sounds funny every time you say it.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Yeah, man, it just sounds funny because it's like, to me, I'm saying it, so I don't hear it. But when I hear you say it, I'm just like.
But yeah, I mean, like Mike said, I mean, if they feel like this is gonna hurt them, then they got to make moves, because this can ultimately put them under. So I mean, we did have a gripe with Harley Davidson before, and it was because after this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they did shut down a factory in Kansas City, Missouri, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they cut jobs. They sent a lot of jobs to Pennsylvania, I believe it was. But it resulted in a net loss of jobs.
Yeah, didn't they send some like I guess some stuff to Thailand too?
Yeah, they did. But I believe that was separate than what's happening right now. So again, this is like a beef now. And before, when it was around the time of that tax cut bill, being passed, Trump had nothing but positive words for Harley Davidson, saying that. They're going to do great things for the economy, blah, 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 blah. But of course, this was before Donald Trump implemented these tariffs. So,
this is not like, we're not essentially defending Harley Davidson in this instance. We're just pointing out how Trump enacting these tariffs and kind of starting these trade wars is having an effect on corporations, supposedly the same corporations he wants to help. Mm-hmm. You know, it's definitely going to have an effect on the economy, not in a good way.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, like all these chess moves that are going to be, that are being done by Donald Trump, like when is going to be the end result? Nobody can say when the end result is going to be. Donald Trump seems to think that he's going to win, that the United States is going to win this trade war. But can anybody honestly say that's what's coming? Do we see any evidence of that? Because the tariffs that have been applied to China, there have been retaliatory tariffs, right? The tariffs that have been applied to the EU, there have been retaliatory tariffs. Canada has said the same thing, retaliatory tariffs. So there's no evidence that anybody is wavering, except for an American business, Harley Davidson. They're wavering because they see a loss of money coming. They don't want to be they don't want to be in Trump's ride during this period of time.
That's interesting. They don't want to be in Trump's ride. So obviously, them as a successful corporation. Mm-hmm. I guess I would, if I'm going to pick a corporation to trust as far as stay on afloat and not go bankrupt, it'll be Harley Davidson and not any one of Trump's companies, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm trusting that these moves are being made with a serious amount of consideration. You see what I'm saying? These moves are being made with a serious amount of calculations being done. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So, I'm not saying I trust any corporation, but if we're just talking about, a business move based on how much money they're going to lose, based on how they, I guess, view themselves into the economy and the footprint that they do make in the economy, I would have to trust that their move is a reflection of what they see coming down the road. I have to view this situation. I can't view this situation without looking at Donald Trump's track record.
This is just one business right now. It's a big business. It's just one, though. Now, if we start to see more businesses make the same type of decision, then that's really going to be a bad look for Donald Trump. Now, Harley Davidson, it is a successful business, but their clientele is older. You know, they do market to an older generation. They don't really market to younger people. So the younger businesses, the younger motorcycle businesses, if we're just staying in the same business, the same field, the same category, they haven't made any announcements like this. So maybe at this particular time, they don't see the net loss in the same way as
Harley Davidson?
Maybe because
does. Harley Davidson is more affected by a particular type of tariff.
It could. That could be very true. So, again, I mean, it's just going to be something that obviously businesses are going to be paying attention to, and I think this nation is going to be paying attention to, because, again, if there are more businesses, more corporations that follow the same announcement that Harley Davidson made, I don't think Donald Trump is going to be anywhere close to winning the trade war.
Oh, he's going to be on Twitter like a mug, too, because he has to kind of provide cover for himself. We already know he's really good at that.
That's right. All right. We got one more story dealing with immigration, but not really. Or I cannot really say this. Border issues?
I guess that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, like border issues. I guess that's the way to set it up. So let me make sure I got this. Okay. So a French woman by the name of Cedella Roman, she was visiting her mother in Canada last month. While she was there, she went out jogging just south of White Rock, British Canada. And she accidentally crossed over into the U.S. state of Washington. She stopped to take some pictures, and 2 Border Patrol agents approached her. She said, quote, "He stopped me and started telling me I had crossed the border illegally. I told him I really hadn't done it on purpose and didn't understand what was happening to me." So she wasn't carrying any identification on her at the time. So they took her into custody and transferred her to a detention center in Tacoma, Washington. That's according to Carissa Cottrell, who is the public affairs officer with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency said in a statement, if an individual enters the United States at a location other than an official port of entry and without inspection by a Customs and Border Protection officer, they have illegally entered the United States and will be processed accordingly. It is the responsibility of an individual traveling in the vicinity of an international border to maintain awareness of their surroundings and their location at all times to ensure they do not illegally cross the border. So I mean, when you put that statement together, when you see that for yourself, it's like, well, you should be aware of where you are, and you should follow signs and be like, you shouldn't have your head in your cell phone maybe, or your head in the clouds. You should be paying attention, especially if you're near the border, if you're like in a border city or something like that.
Correct.
Right?
And those I guess those rules and those the regulations and those suggestions are kind of like, I guess, basic ground rules.
Right.
Basic ground rules. That does not mean, as a Border Patrol agent, you don't assess a situation as you walk up to it. Right. You don't treat every situation the same. No differently than a police officer. For the police officer, for the most part, they don't treat somebody who is, guilty of jaywalking the same way they treat somebody who is guilty of attempted murder. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So as Border Patrol agents approach people who cross, they can, I guess, act in some sort of discretionary way if they can tell somebody crossed on accident, even with those basic principles being intact.
So, again, she didn't have any documentation on her. So possibly they were right to take her into custody. Mm-hmm. Possibly, okay? Right. So within 3 days, they were able to receive her official documents. Her documents stating that, she was a French national. But it wasn't until 2 weeks later that she was actually released. So she was in custody for 2 weeks, and it took that amount of time for, I guess, the state of Washington or just the federal government maybe, and Canada to conclude that she could be in Canada.
Look, I know her status and her lack of ID contributed to her situation, but I'm really trying to figure out, like, why there's a big gap. Like, because you said 5/24, they received her ID.
Right.
5/29, Canada says to bring her to the Blaine crossing. And then on 6/5, U.S. finally gets around to deporting her to Canada. My thing is,
why it takes so long?
Why the long gap between the second and third things? Bringing her to the Blaine crossing, and then the U.S. finally gets around to deporting. Why the, like, 7 days? Like, oh, but basically a week.
I know.
Basically a week.
It makes no sense. And what? Okay, so still, even with all the news that we have shared, there still may be some people like, well, I mean, look, she was held for 2 weeks. Nothing really bad happened to her. She was eventually brought back to Canada. Whatever. Move on, right? But really, that's not really the reason why we, I guess, chose to focus on this event. Really, we wanted to bring attention to how she crossed over into the United States of America. So this was the beach that she was walking on. Okay, she was walking along the beach. She was running. She was trying to run, right? So this is the beach, like I said, and you see the tree line to the left. Okay, so this is another picture, and I want you to pay attention to this. Okay, so the little icon of the person running is where she was. Okay, so that's the beach that she was running along, like to the north end. She was running south. Now, again, note that there's a tree line there. Now, the block, the big white block in the like the red circle, that's where the nearest U.S. Canadian border sign was. So she couldn't see it. There was no sign on the beach whatsoever. She would have had to been across the tree line, like, and this is pretty. This is like not to scale, of course. If you zoom in, it's a pretty significant distance between where she was at and where that border sign was at. So again, there was no way for her to notice that she was about to cross the border. So you would think that where the border is, no matter where the border is, if it's near the beach or wherever it is, you would think there should be a sign informing people this is the border. So her mother, she visited her a few times when she was in custody in Washington, I believe. But to her, she feels like this was a trap. She feels like the United States of America is just trapping people into illegally crossing the border. And then they detain them, and just like her, Roman, she spent 2 weeks in detainment. It's a situation that probably could have been avoided.
Yeah, I think if we're going to be so vigilant at the border and expect people to be aware that this blade of grass is Canadian and the blade of grass next to it is American, then maybe we should have like zero tolerance signs like every 20 feet.
I'm saying.
Do you see what I'm saying? If we're going to be that vigilant, we'd have those kind of signs like
paint the other side blue, like the grass blue over there or something. Like make it very distinctive.
Yeah, because we don't need to needlessly spend all this money processing people when
needless reasons
when they obviously cross the border on accident. Maybe we should like tie big like giant ribbons or like balloons on the top of the trees like along the border, like every 50 feet. Let's say zero tolerance, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? If we're gonna be so strident about this,
because we're wasting money, right? Isn't that a waste of money?
That's a waste of money.
You had somebody in detention for 2 weeks. First, you had to transport her there. Then you had to transfer her back to Canada.
My thing is like,
for what?
Again, and my thing is like, her mother visited her twice. You know, they obviously, why didn't they just get her mother to bring the papers to the detention facility and it could have been over right there?
Since she visited her, hey, I have the papers right here. Can she come back with me? Cool, let's go.
Yeah, the 2 weeks detention for something like this is about 13 and a half days too long. Dead serious.
It's crazy, man.
It's like this foreign woman crossed over by accident. And she did not want to be here, right? Think about that.
Want to be
she
here.
did not want to be here. But,
get over here anyways.
We're gonna keep you here. Like, wait a second. I thought we didn't want. Like, she doesn't want to be here.
We don't want foreigners invading.
Okay, and
right?
she says, "Okay, my bad. I don't want to be here. Nah, you
let me
coming
go.
with us.
Just let me go.
No, we're going. You coming now? Like so we.
Like the border's right there. The border's right there. Can I?
No.
The border's right there.
Even though we don't want you here, we need you to stay
for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks.
Yo, a waste of government resources, to say the least. To say a waste of time and resources. You tied up 2 weeks into this. Who knows how often this happens? We don't even know. And this is only one spot in Canada. I don't know. Like, I don't know what like some of these border towns look like. I don't know what's separating the United States from Canada. I don't know what it looks like. We have no idea how often this happens.
True that. It could happen like very often. It could happen very often. Maybe we could do a lot. We can do more. Like I said, if we're going to be kind of, or we're going to stress border security so much.
Zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance. If we're going to stress this so much, shouldn't we do our part as a nation? You know what I'm saying? The United States do their part in ensuring that people, and just setting up, you know, provisions and setting up the parameters.
And it doesn't take a wall.
It doesn't take a wall.
It doesn't take a wall.
It definitely doesn't take a wall. Maybe we should build like surprise musical landmines along the border, and like when people step on it, like it plays that that music from that movie Team America. You know what I'm talking about? America, fuck yeah! Then oh shit, damn! I stepped on a landmine, the musical landmine. I ain't gonna cross. Or actually,
there got to be some kind of fail-safe.
Actually,
right?
Maybe it should be the other song, the one from the beginning of the movie. That would probably scare him even more. I ain't even gonna say that one.
Oh my gosh, man!
I'm not even gonna say that because most might get in trouble.
There's got to be something though, but there got to be something. There got to be something because I guarantee, like, there's no way for me to tell. There's no way probably for anybody to tell. But this can't be just a one-off. Can't be a one-off. I know this has probably happened in different places, you know, along the border, not just on the northern border, but the southern border too. It's just ridiculous, man. But all right, we got through it. Got through everything that we wanted to get through.
Didn't do too bad. We didn't do too bad.
Didn't do too bad. Yeah. If we didn't have all those technical difficulties, if we didn't have the buffering issue and all of that nonsense, we probably would have been done a little bit earlier. But I'm glad you stayed with us, everybody. We got some support on the channel, on the stream that we want to highlight. Do Poop, Jeremiah, Gear Randon, thank you all. Even I'm not sure about this Do Poop message.
Thank you for these books.
Not sure about that.
I don't care about the message.
Yeah,
you gave me some dollars. So I care less, dog. Whatever.
Jeremiah I knew I was drinking iced coffee this late for a reason. That's what's up, man. Hey, you know.
Yeah, sorry about it, but yeah.
About 40 minutes past. Well, I mean, actually, we usually still on about this time.
We usually are about to close to wrapping up.
Yeah, close to it.
Yeah.
But now we are just starting the call-in section.
So, yeah.
So definitely, if anybody wants to call in, if anybody has something on their mind that they would like to express on the show, please feel free to do so. The number to call in is 669-900-6833. And we'd be happy to hear your perspective on anything that we've talked about today, or maybe that we've talked about in the past, or maybe something that is going on that we haven't talked about today. There was, you know what, and I probably would have talked about it, just brought it up, but we had the technical difficulties at the beginning, but there was a shooting today.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We, it was at the something Gazette. I don't even remember what it was called, but I saw that there were at least five fatalities. I'm not really sure what happened there. Again, like, you know, I was at the basketball practice too since at least an hour and a half before the show even began. So I didn't get a lot of information on it. I just saw some headlines, so I don't really even know what happened. So there was no way that we could have commented on it, but I did want to at least address it.
Capital Gazette. Annapolis, Maryland. It says 5 fatalities confirmed. Others wounded in the Maryland shooting, officials say.
Okay.
It was just updated about 30 minutes ago.
So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if they have somebody in captivity, if they have the suspect.
I don't know. I read that they do.
They do have somebody?
That's what I saw on Facebook, but I can't confirm that. I need to find like an actual source to confirm that.
Okay. All right.
It's targeted attack.
Yeah, but again, I don't know if was it targeted? Was it random? Was it a former employee? Was it? I have no idea what this is
a gunman
about.
opened fire at a newspaper office in Annapolis on Thursday, killing 5 people and gravely wounding a number of others before being taken into custody in one of the deadliest attacks on journalists in the U.S. history, police and witnesses said. So yeah, he's been taken into custody. So I guess it was an attack on journalists. Like, I wonder what kind of. I mean, this says. What's the name? I forgot the name just that quick.
What?
Capital Gazette.
Capital Gazette.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, that's NPR. Okay. I'm just wondering, like, because the way the article read, it made it sound like it was an attack on journalists, specifically, like they targeted this newspaper. So I'm trying to figure out, like, once they have the dude in custody, so they're probably going to like go over his social media presence with a comb, and
because it could either be that, or like I said, it could be a former worker. So
yeah.
I don't know if it's actually an
attack on
journalists.
Yeah, that's kind of jumping to conclusion.
I don't know,
but I don't know. Maybe they know something we don't, so we don't know enough about it yet.
All right, so listen.
People waiting.
All right, so I believe 443 was the first caller to join us. Yeah. So let's bring them on. All right, 443, you're on the air live with LTMB. What's going on tonight?
I know who this is.
Hey, what's going on, Michael Rose Court?
Hey, what's going on,
man? Appreciate you calling in.
No problems. I want to talk about the shooting in Annapolis today, too, because that shit's scary. Now, I know you guys just got wind of it, but Milo Yiannopoulos 2 days ago called for, I shit you not, vigilante squads to shoot journalists in the streets. He literally called for that shit. Now, I don't know if this guy has some like hardcore neo-Nazi like ideology or anything. His name is Gerard Ramos. He had beef with the paper. And it was because they ran an article on him about how he was harassing a young woman who he thought, I guess in his head, he thought they were dating, but he had some stalking issues. So he would threaten her, he would tell her to kill herself and all this stuff. And then he had to get a restraining order. And then the paper published a story about him, copping a plea deal to this. And he tried to sue the paper, say that they defamed his name and this and that and the other thing. So he goes in today and shoots the place up. I mean, it's just funny, isn't it? I mean, Milo Yiannopoulos, this voice of the alt-right, calls for the shooting deaths, of journalists by vigilante squads, and this is what happens. I mean, you got Trump up there telling Maxine Waters that she needs to be careful because she's encouraging peaceful protest against the detainment of children in concentration camps. You got Sean Hannity on Fox News immediately starts to blame Maxine Waters for this shooting, right? I mean, you have all these crazy wingnuts out here who are listening to this guy, and they absolutely believe this shit. You go on QAnon, they have come up with a million different conspiracy theories. Our conspiracy theory, it's about leftist projection. It's about leftist hatred. It's about leftist violence. It's a setup, man. I'm telling you, I think this whole Civil War thing has already started. And I don't want to sound alarmist, but I think it already has, man, because if they can just go out and shoot journalists and really just blame anybody who is not a conservative, there's a problem. They can do anything that they want. And with Justice Kennedy being retiring from the Supreme Court, the judicial branch is, as I would argue, one of the most powerful branches in American government because they get the final word and they get to set precedents. And when people talk about, the judicial branch, it's not a political, entity. We work really hard to keep out activist judges. It's bullshit. They don't. They don't keep out activist judges. That's why they fought so hard to get this nominee, and they stole it from the Democrats because they knew that if they could do this, it doesn't matter who they have. Trump is an incompetent buffoon, but it doesn't matter now because any challenge to any law that any state wants to bring to the Supreme Court can be made to get there through the appellate courts, and then it can be ratified, or I'm sorry, not ratified, it can be upheld by the Supreme Court really at a whim, really because of their interpretation of the law. I mean, it is a sad day, and 600 women, like 572 women or 600 women were arrested in Washington, D.C. today, protesting immigrant detention. 600, a senator was among their number.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not a joke, right? Like, this is not a joke. You got, like I said, people occupying ICE buildings, and 10 people in Portland were arrested because of that today. So how long does it take before somebody gets shot? I'm telling you, with this whole thing, with the journalist thing, with Milo Yiannopoulos calling for violence, and the Republicans acting like it's the Democrats and it's the left and it's this and it's Antifa and stuff. One day soon, somebody is going to start some shit with someone on the street, and they're going to get killed. They're going to kill a conservative son of a. That's what they're going to do. And then as soon as that happens, the right is going to make it seem like this is how it's been all the time, all along, and they're going to call all their base to arms. It's what's going to happen. I mean, 14, they had like this close, like the DHS website. We must build the wall and secure our future, or secure our borders for America's future and shit. It sounds like they used a fraction that had 13 over 88, and 88 stands for HH, which is how, I mean, the shit is everywhere. It's rampant. You've got Steve King on national television defending a retweet from a neo-Nazi. Not ashamed of it, not embarrassed by it, doesn't give a fuck. The reason he doesn't care is because he knows he's good now. He can say whatever he wants. Come August, fellas. I mean, October's when they're supposed to put the guy in, put the justice in, or whoever they're going to pick. That's when they're supposed to put this justice in, right? They'll probably know who they want in there by August. Come midterms, if we can even get I mean, this shit is serious. The Supreme Court can do all kinds of crazy shit. All kinds of crazy shit that people can't imagine. It goes so far beyond Roe v. Wade. I mean, so far. I mean, they could take this country back to segregation if they wanted to. I mean, that's that bad. It is that bad.
That's shortly. I just want to make one comment on, because you went everywhere, and man, you had a lot to say. A lot of things that I agree with, man. But quickly about the judicial system it probably is the most important branch, because like you said, it's the final say. It can set precedents. Now, with the conservative agenda, with Donald Trump's agenda, you can certainly blame him for everything that he's trying to impart on the country. And it's just not him. It's conservatives before him. It's going to be conservatives after him as well. It's conservatives right now. It's just not him. So you can definitely blame them for what they are trying to do, what they are doing. But I'm going to go back a little bit. I got to blame Obama a little bit. I got a little bit of heat for Obama, because Obama served 2 terms as president. He was president for 8 years. And what we saw as him being president, we saw somebody that was a centrist. We saw somebody that campaigned on hope and change and progress. And we didn't get a lot of that. You know, we didn't see him be the progressive that he campaigned as. So why I say I wanted to go back to Obama is that look where we are right now. Like, under his administration, we lost the House. I mean, we had a supermajority with Democrats. We lost that. Lost the Senate. We lost the House. Okay? So what would have prevented you, Barack Obama, former president, from being who you said you were when you were campaigning? We had all of these legislative losses. We lost the damn judicial system now. We lost the damn Supreme Court. Now we have a chance of there being 5 supremely conservative justices on the bench. Had we not lost all of those legislative seats, that probably wouldn't have happened. So I guess my argument is that, or I guess my disdain for Obama is because if that was going to happen anyways, at least it would have happened with somebody like you campaigning the way you did, doing what you could have done to really change the society for the better. That's my problem.
Let's see.
I
there's
fully
assumption
understand.
There's assumption that Obama might be affected by the things that he didn't put effort into not changing. And see, that's the thing. That's where Obama's privilege comes in. So he is not.
You guys want to know what it is, man? You guys want to know what it really is? Obama was a bourgeoisie president. Okay, I mean,
exactly.
He was not a hateful man, but he was a bought man. And see, people don't understand that this Citizens United thing, everybody's all boo-hooing. Kennedy gave us Citizens United. He wrote Citizens United. You know what I mean? Like, this kind of stuff, like politicians like Barack Obama, they're groomed for power. You think he was going to go in there and upset Wall Street? You think he was actually going to go in there and stop the military from adventurism? Do you think his whole plan was to make sure that people weren't always worried about their jobs? America runs on exploitation. That is the bottom line. Did Obama do good things? Sure, he did good things. He fought for health care for everybody. He did. Did the Republicans obstruct Obama at every turn? Sure. Was there a lot of racism in the White House when Obama? Sure, there was. But Obama could have went out like a kamikaze. I mean, basically, he had the kind of personal discipline which pretty much made him unassailable. Didn't have affairs. He didn't use racial epithets against people. He didn't have any questionable things in his past, nothing like that. Nothing like that. I mean, they even tried to take him out during his first campaign with the Jeremiah Wright guy, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. And they couldn't do that. Why? Because he's just not that type of person. But see,
that's what that's the difference between like your typical Democrat and all of these conservative, like real right wingers, these extreme right wingers. They fight for what they want at every turn. They will go farther right. They will go as far right as you allow them to go. Democrats, they say they want these things. They say they actually fight for people. They fight for fairness and justice and equality and all of these all of these good feelings, all these things that everybody wants, but they don't ever do it. Obama at every turn seems like he was reaching across the aisle. You know, we got to do this bipartisan. You know, they're not trying to do that. Why are you? Why don't you just stick to what you say your morals are, your beliefs are, your convictions are? Why don't you just stick to that? And we just don't see Democrats do that.
It's like a propaganda, man. I mean, this might get dark, but I'm gonna drop it anyway, right? Just because the right uses propaganda that's full of hate, you know, and it's the fear side of the equation. It's the stick for the horse, which is us, the people. The Democrats use a lighter type of propaganda, and their type of propaganda is, if you just sit back and take all the abuse and never ever have a breaking point, it's all going to be fine, because the good win and the bad lose, and that's how the universe works. But that's not true.
Yeah, that's where that civility talk comes in.
Barney Frank. You remember Barney Frank?
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
It was Barney Frank during during the 2016 presidential election, during the primaries. He was throwing much shade on Bernie Sanders' candidacy, and he was saying that, hey, what you got to do is just got to keep voting for Democrats. See, you got to show up for the midterms, and that's how progress is done. You know, it takes time. You just got to keep voting for Democrats. Like, we already had a supermajority. You didn't do anything. So obviously, it's not just about electing Democrats. It's about electing the right Democrats. You're just talking about, let's just elect any Democrat and progress will be made. Nah, we've seen what happens. Nothing happens.
And I think the kind of the in-your-face illustration of what Court is talking about in regards to Democrats being like, our time is coming, just wait, is kind of clear in this situation with Maxine Waters and the reaction towards her from the Democratic Party, Democratic leadership. Court, did you see what how Schumer and Pelosi have responded?
Oh yeah, they were completely spineless. They were completely spineless, and you know, they had nerve enough to say, you know, in the news for a couple of days after the incident, they had nerve enough to say they were distancing themselves from Maxine Waters. I'm like, wow. First off, if you are the good guy, if your party is the good guy, and you distance yourself from a person who tells your constituents to fight for the rights of undocumented children separated from their parents being sold into God knows what, I don't consider you the good guys. And I don't consider Nancy Pelosi and I don't consider Chuck Schumer the good guys. I really don't. I consider them bought. I mean, they when Nancy Pelosi came up and talked about the progressive woman who won in New York, Ocasio, when she talked about her and said, you know, basically threw shade on her. I'm like, really? Nancy Pelosi has described herself on numerous occasions to be a progressive. And yet when a progressive pulls an upset in her party, she tries to downplay it.
Right.
And people and I go on Reddit and shit, and I put my little comments out there, and the minute I say anything critical at all about the Democratic Party, it's downvote this and you're naive that, and I'm like, well, how well has it worked out for the Democratic Party with this third way bullshit? There is no third way. There is either their way or there is our way. There is no third way. Like the Democrats are like, we'll appease the corporations while we make sure people have a basic social safety net. That was the third way. The first way was to give people nothing. Just let the corporations and the oligarchy run everything. That's the first way. The second way was let the people have everything and let the oligarchs and let the capitalists fend for themselves. They have enough. Right? The third way was we'll make the capitalists happy and we'll make the people shut up. That was the third way. And it doesn't work. The capitalists don't want the people quiet. They want the people gone, or they want the people exploited. Period. Like the end goal of the Russian government is not to like play nice with America. We destroy their fucking country. Of course they want to see us destroyed, right? The end goal of the Republican Party is not to see America become more godlike. They want America to go back to the 1850s. That's what they want America to go back to. This is ridiculous, this third wave bullshit. Oh, you need to be civil. You need to make sure that people, you articulate and this and that. And that. While these motherfuckers literally shoot you in the street, and then come back on TV and talk about how you were the ones who provoked it and you were the ones who brought the violence. How the fuck do people actually look at Charlottesville and not see right through that shit? Who showed up with guns? Unite the Right showed up with guns. Who got killed? The anti-fascist protester, one of them got killed. It's not even ambiguous. You can't even call it the fucking fog of war. It's like cut and dry. One person died at that rally. The person who was speaking out against fascism. One group of people showed up to that rally armed. The fascist. How hard is that? It's not hard, man. It's not hard.
Yo, this dude is turned up right now.
I know, man. Your boy started off like I don't know, like your boy started off like Luther Vandross.
Yeah.
Like real smooth.
Yeah,
you know
man.
what I'm saying? Like Barry White started off real smooth, and then he ended like mystical.
Yeah, man.
Busta
Rhymes.
Like, God damn.
Yeah, man. Well, we feel your passion, man. It's like that's how we get sometimes too, man. And it's we try to laugh through it, man. But some of this stuff, especially some of the stuff that we see on the horizon that's coming, that's very possible, that could be our reality, is it kind of. I don't know, man. It kind of has me speechless at times, man. I really don't. I don't know, man. I really don't know what's going to become of this thing. In at least 2.5 more years, I have no idea what this country is going to look like in 2020.
I don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the summer, man. I really don't. I don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the summer. We have several school shootings. I'm convinced all three of them are in some way tied to, if not alt-right, neo-Nazi ideology, just to extreme conservative views. I mean, shit like incels and alt-right and all that stuff. All that shit like conspiracy theories, all that shit's covered under an umbrella. And, they keep killing people. They keep killing people. They keep going out and they keep killing people. And we keep getting thoughts and prayers. And I'm afraid that sometime before the end of the summer, something's going to happen to the other side. And it's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be that dude who shot up the baseball game, but this time it's not going to be just him missing or just wounding people. It's going to be some serious shit. I mean, you got checkpoints in Maine checking for undocumented people and shit, or I think it was Maine or Massachusetts or whatever. It's insane, man. Checkpoints, really? That's how all civil wars start, man. You start seeing checkpoints.
Man, like I said, man, we'll just have to see how it goes, man. I don't think we can, at this point, we can't predict the way it's going. It just looks like it's going to get really bad. So we're just going to be in this thing together, man. Just trying to make it through, man. We appreciate you calling in, though, man, and getting all mystical with us, though, man. We like to see that passion, man.
All right, fellas. I have a good night.
All right, man. You have a good weekend, man.
You too. Peace out.
Peace.
Did I do that? Did I do that?
All right, we got 704 on the line. Caller, thank you for staying with us. You're on the air live with LTMB.
What's up, man? This is Will from North Carolina.
What's going on,
Big
Will?
Willie, what's up, man?
What's up? How y'all doing?
Good, man. How about you?
All right, I'm doing good. Yeah, I was calling in, man. Something I wanted to speak on real quick. I'm not sure if you guys are gonna agree with me or not, but about the Sam Ronan arrest. Man, it's just been kind of bothering me a little bit. Yeah. Oh, did you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Excuse me. Yeah. I watched the video, man, and with a Ronan arrest, you know, he's being pulled over. He gets out of his car, and the police are yelling at him to get on the ground. And he does approach the officers and ask why he's being arrested, or why they are asking him to get on the ground, and they don't tell him. So Sam Ronan had every right to resist, to refuse to lay on the ground. As a matter of fact, according to the Supreme Court, he had every right to defend himself. He was being wrongfully arrested, and that became even more clear when you see his charges, which obviously all stemmed from the arrest. And he also he had I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. But he was, I'm sorry, what I was going to say is he was resisting a kidnapping, not an arrest, in my opinion. And I think back to the situation with the Bucks player. I can't remember his name.
What?
The Bucks player.
Oh, the Bucks player. Okay, yeah. The Sterling Brown, yeah.
Sterling Brown, yeah. With Sterling Brown, he comes out of the store. The officer gave him a reasonable request, but I don't blame Sterling Brown at all for not backing up from the officer, all that stupid crap. You know, it's you know, I think it's perfectly okay to interact with the police in a way that lets them know that you're a public servant. You have a stated mission to serve and protect, and all this extracurricular nonsense can, you can take that somewhere else. And I don't see a big difference, man. I don't see such a big difference. I mean, I see some similarities between those two situations. And
right, so let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
I guess if you're saying that the Sterling Brown situation is similar to the Sam Ronan situation, then you would have to say that all interactions with the police are similar.
No, I don't agree with that. I'm saying there are some similarities.
Yeah, there are there are obviously some similarities, but the difference in the situations is in Sterling Brown's situation, he was not doing anything. Like, again, you may disagree with the situation Sam found himself in. But the difference in both of those situations is Sterling Brown wasn't doing anything physically to provoke any actions from the officer. Now, whatever you think happened, whatever position you take with the Samuel Ronan situation, he actually did walk towards the officer. So there's a big difference. Also, there was 6 or 7 officers surrounding Sterling Brown at the time. Okay, and number one, let me ask you something. Just as a citizen of the United States, I'm not sure whether you've gotten pulled over. I'm pretty sure you have your driver's license. Now, when you get pulled over and the police officer has their blue lights on, and this police officer had their blue lights on for 45 seconds. If you actually watch the footage, he activated his overhead lights, and he followed Samuel Ronan for about 45 seconds. Samuel Ronan ultimately pulls into a parking space of what is believed to be his apartment complex.
And he gets out of his car, right?
No, okay. And he gets out of his car. Do you know when you get pulled over by the police officers, you're not under arrest just because you get pulled over? Now, far be it from me to assume that Samuel Ronan understands that. I know he's a smart man. He understands that. Most Americans who have a driver's license and drive understand that just because you get pulled over by the police, you're not under arrest. Most likely, it's a traffic violation, or they thought they saw a traffic violation. No, how you discuss that in that circumstance is what? The cop gives you a chance to discuss that. That's why you stay in the car. He got out of his car. The reason why he was told to get on the ground is because he disobeyed the command to get back in the car. If you actually watch the footage, you can hear the officer say, "Don't get out of the car." The officer is about to walk up to the car and dialogue with Sam. So I understand what you're talking about. A civil servant should dialogue about why they're having an interaction with the citizen. But that is what is going to happen usually when a cop pulls you over. They come up to the car and they say X, Y, and Z. You did this, or I saw you do this. That's where the dialogue happens. You're not supposed to get out your car not with a bag in your hand and come towards the officer. Now, I will concede. I will concede that maybe once that happens, he should say, "Hey, this is why I put you over. Now get back in your car. This is why I put you over. Now get back in your car." But at that moment, he apparently didn't feel as if speaking was doing enough, and he didn't feel the need to be like, "Oh, this guy looks like he doesn't even want to hear me out here." So you have to understand that getting out of the car in that moment doesn't make any sense. He actually wasn't under arrest when he walked towards the officer. So he wasn't under arrest though. He wasn't under arrest at that moment.
It makes sense to me.
So you're saying he was under arrest. You're saying he was under arrest when he got out of the car.
I can say it myself. What I'm saying is, whenever he pulls into his parking place at his place of residence, and he gets out of his car, first of all, it's not illegal for him to get out of his car. I've gotten out of my car at traffic stops. I've been told to get back in my car too. Not every single time, but yes, that's normally what they're going to do, is tell you to get back in your car. But it's not illegal. He was at his house. He knew I think he may have known that he didn't do anything to be getting pulled over. He probably understands that he is a political target, and for him to get out of his car, and you saying he approached with a bag, like that's a problem? I mean, it would have been worse if his hand was empty, because he could reach for a weapon. He couldn't reach for a damn thing with a bag in his hand and holding his cell phone up.
Let me ask you a question.
The police admitted that they knew when they pulled him over, they knew who he was and understood that he had they wanted to try to protect themselves, so they brought up the fact that he had a concealed carry permit or something like that. But the point is, they knew who he was. He got out of his car. He approached officers. It's not illegal what he did. And then at that point, he began resisting a kidnapping. So,
okay, Will, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
The way the police interacted with Roman
Will, let me cut you off there. Let me cut you off. Let me ask you a question.
Fresh Prince, calm down.
Let me ask you a question, man. Now, is it a lawful order for a police officer to order you out of the vehicle?
Is it a lawful order? I guess it depends. It depends on the circumstance.
No, actually,
it does. They can't. There are some cases where they can't tell you to get out of your car. There are some cases. So I don't know. Depending on the circumstance, it possibly could be.
Per the Supreme Court. This has been decided. Like if a cop orders you out of the vehicle, you have to get out of the vehicle, straight up, because they can break into your car and pull you out. But at that time, if they order you out of the vehicle,
just walk up on you at any time and order you out of your car.
No. A traffic stop. At a traffic stop.
At a traffic stop. You're saying can they order you out of your car at a traffic stop? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yes, they can. So if they can do that, another lawful order would be stay in your vehicle. That's another lawful order. Like the whole thing with Sam Ronan was that.
But what I'm saying is,
there was hold on, no, wait, Will, chill.
What the problem I have with?
Hold on, let me get dog. No, wait. You're not letting me finish, man. We're letting you talk. Just wait a second, man.
No, you're not. But go ahead.
Yes, we did, man. You got it out. Mike responded. I let you talk a little bit. I asked you a question. Now hear me out. The whole thing about Samuel Ronan is that there was a traffic stop, okay? No matter where he stopped at, no matter if he stopped at his home or on the side of the road or at a business, wherever it was still a traffic stop. In a traffic stop, most people know exactly what to do, and that is you stay in your vehicle until the cop comes in, and then he talks to you about why he pulled you over, or, you know, can I see your driver's license? Can I see your insurance? Can I see your registration? Whatever. That's the way traffic stops happen all over the country. Samuel Ronan got out of the vehicle himself. The officer said, get back in your vehicle. Samuel Ronan did not, and he chose to walk towards the officer. Now, as I said when we were doing this story, I damn sure know that black people know there's no way you get out of the vehicle, one, and two, there's no way you're going to approach the officer. I know, just like we say, I think I said it earlier today too, a police officer job is very difficult, it's very dangerous. You're approaching people that you do not know, you don't know what their background is, you don't know what they're about to do to you, so I know they're on alert. Yes, but how do you know he knew him? How the hell do you know that he knew him? You don't even know the officer.
You're interjecting. You're interjecting speculation.
I'm trying to tell you how they knew who he was. They said they were aware who he was and that he had a weapons permit.
No,
So that
man,
means
the
they knew
dispatcher
he was.
told him that. The dispatcher told him that. And we don't even know at what point the dispatcher told him that.
Before they executed the stop, they knew that he had a weapons permit.
Okay, but why would you? Because, okay,
but they knew who he was. They knew
but
he had a
why
weapons
do you think this
permit.
is political? Why do you think this is like political retribution? Why do you think this was political?
Because of the way because they started telling him to lay on the ground. The officer didn't have to go to that.
Yes,
they did not have to go to that.
A police officer's job is difficult. Can we agree on that? A police officer's job is difficult.
No, I can't agree on that. And I would
You
like
can't
to
agree that
expound.
a police officer's job is difficult?
I would like to expound for a moment if you'll allow me. The problem I have, the issue I have, is with anybody, black or white, anybody, any human being being pulled over does not deserve to be yelled at, to be talked to the way he was talked to, and to be threatened to be tased and to be laid on the ground and arrested with the cop's knees on your head and in your back without even being told what you're being arrested for. You have a right,
Samuel
according to the
Ronan,
Supreme Court, to defend
he
yourself
elevated the
against anybody,
tension.
whether they're wearing a uniform or not.
Samuel Ronan elevated the tension of the situation because he got out of the car and walked towards the officer. Again, an officer's job is difficult. No matter if hold on. I let you go. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Again,
go ahead.
No, hold on. Okay, so again, an officer's job is difficult. No matter if I think that there is bad policing all across the country, an officer's job is difficult. An officer's job is dangerous. Doesn't matter. Like, I can admit that. Everybody should be able to admit that it's dangerous. It's not for everybody. Now, they have to come across danger on the regular. Okay, they don't know who they're going to confront. Okay, so they don't know if Samuel Ronan has bad intentions. They have no possible way of knowing that. But there's an individual getting out of his vehicle when he shouldn't be. He's ignoring my commands to stay in his vehicle, and he's walking towards me. What do you like? What should that officer do at that point? Like, engage him in a conversation? Hey, sir, I know you're walking towards me. You're not following my instructions at all. It's dark. I don't know what your intentions are, but I'm gonna have a conversation with you.
I think they're pretty clear. He's trying to talk to him. I mean, I'm going to say that the guy that ran away from the officer and was shot in the back, he did something to elevate the tension, but that doesn't make it right that he was shot in the back.
But he didn't elevate the threat. He didn't elevate the threat.
The threat? What
He didn't
threat?
elevate the threat. He didn't make any threatening move. He was running away.
If we accept that we're treated as threats over something like carrying a bag in our hand, we are really asking.
The threat is not the bag. The threat is he was
crazy,
walking towards the officer.
I was just saying that was one of the elements, I guess, that came along with Samuel Ronan walking towards the officer. Like there was multiple things that happened here, Will. You have him getting out of your car over a traffic stop. Now, like, okay, can you say yes or no? Was that the right thing to do? Was that the right thing to do? We'll start from there. We'll start. Can we start from the beginning? Can we start from the beginning? You can't. We're not going to go anywhere until you start from the beginning, man. I just want. You can answer a simple question.
We got just about 3 minutes.
We got just about 3 minutes. I'm answering. I just want you to answer the question. This is directed towards you, and I'm gonna give you a chance, but you kind of have to answer the question. Okay. If you say you don't want to answer the question, that's fine. Was it the right? Was it the right thing to do to get out of the car on a traffic stop? That's my only question.
You're not going to like my answer. I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't know. But I can say that the way my problem is with the way the police handled the situation. I think he has a right. It's not against the law. He was in his home. He knows who he is. They obviously know who he is. I mean, the problem is maybe he didn't handle it perfectly or whatever, but I'm saying the police still overreacted. We should have a problem with the way the police reacted in this situation.
Okay, how should the police have reacted?
And the officer talked shit to him. The officer shouldn't have run his mouth to him. That's my point. They need to act like they have some sense.
Were you watching the same video we watched?
I didn't hear any.
I didn't hear any shit talking. I didn't hear any shit talking. What did he say?
Well, I'm talking about with Sterling Brown. The police didn't have a right to talk to him the way he did because he didn't back up away from the officer.
Yes. We agree with you. Yes, we agree with you on that.
Yes.
You see how this thing works? We examine each situation for the elements that appear.
And that was okay in that case, but not in Sam Ronan's case. It's not different, man. It's very similar.
He didn't do everything. Hold on. In Sterling Brown's case, he had already had his hands in his pocket, out of his pocket, in his pocket, out of his pocket. At the time that the officer was like, "Get your hands out of your pocket," there was literally 1 or 2 seconds before 5 officers converged on him.
I'm talking about him not backing away. I'm talking about him not backing up from the officer. That's what I'm talking about.
That's not how it actually escalated. That's not ultimately how it escalated.
I mean, the officer says it is. And I'm just saying, but it wasn't right for the police to handle it that way.
But the whole thing was that this officer that was on the scene with Samuel Ronan perceived a threat from Ronan because 1, he was not following his orders, and 2, he was coming towards him. No matter what you say, again, if you can allow that a police officer's job is dangerous, then you have to allow
away, man. How do you perceive a threat? If he perceived a threat, he wouldn't have put his taser down.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if you actually watched our show when we talked about this, and I actually I actually brought this up. We only have 30 seconds with you on the phone, so it's going to cut you off. But we actually brought that up, and if you think about it, you're actually making a point for the officer because at that moment he was actually just using the taser as a deterrent. That actually displays that he didn't actually want to use the taser on Ronan. He thought the taser was just going to prompt Ronan to see the seriousness of the situation. So you bringing up the fact that he took the taser out and didn't use it is actually a point for the officer because he didn't use it. He never intended to use it. And that, how can I look at that and not be on the officer's side in that moment for not using a taser? He didn't even have intentions to use it. It's just that he wanted to show Ronan the seriousness of the situation by, I guess, brandishing the taser himself. And once he saw that, he was like, damn, this dude is not complying. I don't want to tase the dude, but he's not compliant. Let me put this taser away because I think I can physically deal with the situation.
Now, if he had deployed the taser, we would have been critical of that because that would have been unnecessary force. But we would still have been critical of Samuel Ronan's actions as well because he came towards the officer and he, like I said, he elevated the tension of this situation.
All you're saying is the officer used restraint by not using the taser. You asked the question, why didn't he pulled the taser out, but he actually, you saying he put it back is saying that he used restraint. I don't think you realize you did that, but that's what he was doing.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Let's go into another video because I forgot we had this video. We just came across this just before we were getting on air, right? So this is a case of excessive force and it involves a taser as well. So please look at this video. I believe this happened in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I don't know if it was earlier today or yes. I don't really know when it was. I don't know who the man's name, what the man's name is. I don't know what the officer's name is. I don't know why the officers were subduing this man. I have no idea why he was being taken into custody, but the video tells the story of excessive force.
Just sit, bruh.
Straight out again, please. Straight out. Straight out.
Put your legs straight out and cross them out.
Oh, come on, bruh.
Oh, he's not listening.
You're really gonna tase him? He was sitting down, though, bruh.
On your stomach. On your stomach. On your stomach. On your stomach. Arms out like an airplane. Stay back.
I live here.
Stay back.
Yeah.
Arms out like an airplane. Out like an airplane, all the way.
Arms out like an airplane.
Yo, he was sitting down, bro. That's crazy. That's why I record everything. Yeah, I got it recorded. Come on. Get inside. Huh? I know, but I'm saying though, he was already sitting down. Yeah, you want to come, babe. Come on. All right.
All right. So that's a case of excessive force to me, because we were talking about this shortly before, because like I said, we just saw it before we came on. And for me, the reason they gave for deploying the tasers, that he wasn't following their exact instructions. Okay. Now, okay, giving him lawful orders. They want to detain him. They want to take him into custody. We have no reason for. But even if it's just, unjust, whatever, they're taking him into custody, okay? So this dude is not following specific instructions. I believe we heard two different things.
Yes.
But we heard somebody say, put your legs out straight and cross them, okay? And he has his arms out straight, and he kind of puts his legs out, but somebody's saying to cross them as well. So he kind of tucks his leg back in and crosses them. There goes the taser. Now, we saw one officer on the scene. We heard another officer. Then we saw two other officers approach the scene. So there's at least 4 officers on this scene. It is not reasonable force to deploy a taser on somebody when they're not being aggressive or threatening to you at all. They're not making any threatening motions at all.
Along with essentially what looks like they are complying for the most part.
Yeah. Even
they're calmly following directions.
But even if they're not, let's say they're not complying. Let's say they're just standing there, right? And they will not get on the ground, like you said, like we saw on the Sam Ronin video. He wouldn't get on the ground, right? He was being told lawful orders, get on the ground. He did not follow these lawful orders. Did the officer deploy the taser? No, he did not, because that would have been excessive force, because this dude is not fighting back. Even though he was in his language like, well, I'm going to defend myself. I don't think he actually defended. He was kind of struggling. I mean, maybe if he, at that point, if one of them deployed the taser, maybe it would have been ruled justified because he's struggling with them. But at the point where he's standing up, no deployment of the taser. This dude is sitting there on the ground.
Back turned.
Now, if he got up and ran, or if he was trying to punch an officer or something like that, okay, you have to use reasonable force to take him down, get custody of him. This dude is not doing anything just but sitting there. You can't use that amount of force just because he's not complying with your exact commands. It has to be you have to assess a threat. You have to assess a threat to use that force.
So, the major thing I have a problem with is I wouldn't say the contradicting commands, but not exact commands. We heard the officer say, sit down, hands behind your back, feet straight out. Then we hear another voice, which I presume was the female cop, say, now cross them. Now, as the other officer who has the taser in their hands, he hears her say this. Mm-hmm. We heard it from the audio receiver from the camera. So we know he heard it. So he knows that command was given to him. So he sees him kind of bring his legs back and cross them. Now, if he thinks that, oh, no, that's not what she meant, keep your legs extended and then cross your feet. Mm-hmm. That would have been a better command. Keep your legs extended and cross your feet. But he could have done that. It's clear that he kind of misheard that command. That's clear. And since that was a command given to him, it's not like he did that on his own. You'd have thought the cop would kind of act with some discretion with the taser and say, no. You need to keep your legs extended and cross your feet. That seems like the next reasonable step to take, but it seemed like he was just looking for an excuse to tase him.
Yo, I got a question. Again, at the time, there was at least 2 officers on the scene, correct? They're both behind him. If you perceive him to be a threat, shouldn't somebody be in front of him? Make sure he's not reaching for something?
There was, because you saw the officer come forth. She was the one who's issuing command.
Okay.
She was off
We
the
don't
camera.
know if she was
right there
at the time.
That
The one officer came in the car. We don't know if she was right there at the time. Regardless, if this dude's a threat, it should take more than one of you, right? But we only saw like one up close to this guy. He wasn't doing anything threatening whatsoever. Again, if he's fighting back, then you can make the case for, well, we had to use reasonable force. We had to deploy the taser to get control over him. No story here, no headlines, no nothing like that. But when the guy is just simply not following commands, what would have prevented you from actually going up to him? Because he had his hands out the whole time he was following that command. I don't think he ever put his hands back in or anything, in his pockets or anything. So what is to prevent you from telling him to stand up, put your hands behind your back, put your hands over your head like this? You just can't. This was unreasonable force used. And I like what the L train said right here. If I can go back and see it. Yeah. Well, he was talking to Will, the caller. He's like, yo, okay. Go speed down the street, get pulled over, videotape how you act when you get pulled over. In fact, get out of the car and walk towards the cruiser. Let me know how that goes.
We know that's not happening.
It's not gonna happen.
We know it's
got
not
more
happening.
sense than that, right?
You know what I'm saying? We love you, Will. I mean, there's probably more things we agree on than disagree on.
No doubt.
But we just disagree on this. We love you because, for the most part, like, you kind of want to see the same world we do going forward.
He fights for justice.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. You want to see like going forward. You want to you envision a similar world that we do. You know what I'm saying? We're fighting for the same type of world. So we still love you in that regard. We just disagree with you on this, man.
Yeah, man. Straight up. Like look, man. I just can't. Like I said, man. It seems like every show we have to highlight some case of police brutality. Seems like it just happens all too regularly. But even with that being said, I cannot say that the job of an officer is not dangerous. I cannot say that it is not difficult. I cannot say that it's for everybody. It's not, man. It is very difficult. When you're going, they will be confronted with with crime. Like, they're going to be confronted with maybe people that have skipped their parole, or just like people that have guns and want to do them harm or whatever. We just don't know what they can see on a day-to-day basis, right? We've seen, and I believe we played it when we were talking about the Sam Ronan incident. We played a couple clips where drivers got out of the vehicle, produced a weapon, started firing at the vehicle, right? That's why they don't know what can happen. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you're about. They don't know what you're planning to do.
And see, Samuel Ronan was looking at the situation like, I know that I didn't do anything wrong, and I know I'm innocent, and I should be like granted kind of more privilege in this situation than anybody else. I should be granted kind of more space to approach an officer in this situation, more so than anybody else. That's kind of what I feel was going through his mind. Like, I kind of have, I don't know, like, I have this elevated sense of worth to where I can get out and speak to a cop because, you know what I'm saying? Like,
dude, just look at the way he was walking.
Yo, like
look
I
at
said,
the way he was walking.
Look at the way he was walking, man. Your boy looked like he was strolling through Macy's.
In his head.
Like, with his little bag, I'm like, bruh, man.
While he's walking towards the officer, in his head, I ain't do anything wrong. Slammed it. Look, I didn't do anything wrong, officer. What's up? You can't do that.
You can't, man.
You can't do that.
Again. And, like, even if it's, looking at Sam Ronan's politics, Yeah, I agree with all Sam Ronen's politics for the most part.
For the most part.
Like, we want to see the same world that Sam Ronen does going forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want, like the world, he wants to see a world with us in it, and we want to see a world with him in it.
Right.
But we can't get there if your boy doesn't, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yo,
like,
you know the world I don't want to see? I don't want to see where it's customary practice or it's acceptable for drivers getting pulled over to get out of their vehicle and walk towards a police officer.
And see, that's
I don't want to see that
like,
world. I don't want to see that world.
That's the
nah,
thing. Like,
sorry.
does he understand what precedent now he's setting?
Exactly. We shouldn't want to see that world. Again, it's not just us civilians, regular citizens, that we want to protect our lives. I want to protect good officers' lives as well. When they're out there on the job, doing their job, the best way they can, protecting the Constitution, protecting people's civil rights, protecting just the community, I don't want them in harm's way. So no, we should disallow people just getting out of the vehicle, approaching the police cruiser. No, sorry, no.
Yeah, exactly. And
Nah.
as much as Will and I talk about, I guess over aggressive police officers, excessive force, abusive behavior, police brutality, as much as we talk about that situation, we still have to keep our heads on straight. You know what I'm saying?
We got to be objective, man. Again, like I said, as much as we talk about police brutality, it's not going to lead us to a point where we're just vilifying every officer or just the profession of law enforcement. Can't do that.
And believe us, we're always looking for moments where police officers, could possibly have used discretion. We're always looking for moments where they had plenty of other options, and it's usually obvious to see that they were looking away from those other options. It doesn't seem like that's the case here, considering like what the situation involved. You know what I'm saying?
Miss Tree is commenting on the guy that got tased on the street.
Yeah, I saw that.
She said, do these douchebags consider for an instant the dude may have been finding it difficult to process their BS after being tased? Did they have his med history in their pockets? Again, you don't have any idea who this guy was. Was he understanding the commands that were given to him?
Was English his first language? That was my question when I like saw the vid. Immediately, I was like, I wonder if English is his first language. And depending on what city you're in, I think as a civil servant, I think that's something that's going to be constantly on your mind, especially in a bigger city.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Straight up. Look, that video was ridiculous. No matter what this guy was being detained for. You don't use a toy. You don't use a taser. You don't deploy that much force against somebody that poses you no threat. And what we saw in that video, he posed no threat. If it was such a threatening situation, wait for other officers to get on the scene. Surround him. You had you had two there, maybe 2, 3 there. You had a 4th officer come on the scene within seconds of him being tased. It was so threatening to you. Just wait. He's just sitting there. He's not making any quick movements. He's not getting up and running. It's just his civil rights were abused, point blank. Ronan's? I don't think so. But that's where we disagree, but that's okay. All right. All right, man. Look at that, man. Almost midnight.
Yeah, like I told you, man. We said we were gonna go to almost midnight. Man.
Almost midnight, man. Y'all got us all up
to the next day.
Well, see what? You know what? I can't even blame that on you. That was all the software.
Oh, true.
I don't know what the problem was with the software. I don't know why
it magically changed.
I don't understand. I don't get it. I really don't, man. But anyway, we'll do better next time. All right. So another shout out to all of you that contributed to the stream tonight. That includes all the people that were chatting, commenting in the chat section. Do Poop Jeremiah Gearandon again that actually donated some funds to LTMB. We appreciate you. We always appreciate you. Also, all of our patrons on patreon.com. Thank you very much for always having our back, supporting us each and every month. Can't do this without you. And everybody that just rewatches, you know, some of the videos that we put out, you know, comment on our Facebook page and share our post or whatever, man. All of it is helpful. And we're going to keep trucking, keep trying to grow. Yeah. We put something out on Facebook earlier today. Learn that you have to be authorized to share, or you have to be authorized to boost political content. Okay, so in the past, before, we have boosted posts, boost videos, like actually paid for advertising to get eyes, you know, to get some more eyes on our stuff, you know, get some more eyes on us, grow the audience. But apparently in May, Facebook initiated some new policy where if you want to run political ads, you have to be authorized. So you have to go through a process now. You have to send them your address. You have to send them the front and back of your license. You have to send them the last four of your social security number. They have to send you a code that you have to put in. You know.
Oh, wait. How do they send you that code, Will?
By ground mail. Well, I mean, by mail, by regular mail.
It's like a hard mail.
Yeah, hard mail.
A
yeah,
piece
to
of
your
like
address.
an actual piece of paper.
Yes. And this, and then I think afterwards, if you do run a political ad, there's gonna be like, a box maybe. This is what I read. There's gonna be a box or something that says, "This is political content." Like you know, where Facebook will like gray out some videos because it's too graphic. Like, this is graphic content. Okay, I want to see. That's what it makes me think of. Like, hey, we're just alerting you. This is political content. So
it may not come with that. Like, it may not come with like the masking.
It may not,
thumbnail,
yeah,
like the
yeah.
black masking.
That would be
thumbnail.
highly ridiculous.
It might come with like another warning, like some of this political content. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, but whatever. So we're trying to do that, and you know, like I said, just try to grow the audience. So that's some of the stuff that we're doing. Subs. We had differently. Well, it's different numbers on YouTube. I believe we were at like 9,300, like a little bit over 9,300 subscribers on YouTube, and on Facebook it's under 68,000, I believe, but does not matter because not even like I wouldn't say 1% of any of those audiences actually see our stuff, right?
Stream complete.
What the hell?
Limit. I think it's a 3-hour limit.
No, it ain't. All right. See? YouTube messing with us.
Yeah, I looked over. It says stream complete, and I was like, I'm telling you, man, somebody's pushing them buttons, dog.
See,
somebody's pushing them buttons.
See, like I see. And what were we talking about? What were we talking about? No.
Maybe you have a certain limit.
No, Deep State don't want us to talk about numbers.
Oh yeah.
All right. See,
we didn't do anything that time.
We didn't even do anything.
It says stream complete. You're offline. We went over to another screen, another window. It came back. Now it says stream resume. Didn't have to do anything.
We have definitely gone over. See, this is some bull right here.
See, there's a difference if the stream health goes down.
That's
a big difference. That's understandable.
That.
But if the stream is completely cut off, that's different. You have to end that.
All right, so apparently YouTube wants us off the air.
Yeah, we know. We taking up too much of their bandwidth or something.
Yeah, so we're gonna we're gonna get out of here because we have no idea if it's going to continue to buffer and it's going to continue to cut us off or whatever. But just know that we support. We appreciate all the support that we get from all of you, no matter what level of support that you give to us. So just be on the watch. We're going to be dropping some videos either tomorrow or Saturday from the last two. Probably the last two, especially this one and the last stream as well. So I think that's all I got.
Yeah, man. You know, just in for a 4-day break, and we'll just see y'all guys again on Tuesday, same time.
Oh yeah, shout out to our callers too, Will
that.
and Court. Appreciate you calling in and adding to the stream, man. So with that, we're gonna be out. Everybody, let the madness begin. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.